Making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes.
You know, good morning, people. Welcome to another early watch. I want to point something out right now that, making bacon is a euphemism for having sex. After I heard that on the last show we did, I went and I looked up euphemisms for sex just for the hell of it. And there are hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Shit I've never heard of. I mean, I knew probably 100 or so. But goddamn, do yourself a favor and go look that shit up sometime. Just scroll down the list of, I think it popped up 400 euphemisms. Some of them are head scratchers, like where the fuck did that come from? Some of them, are real commonplace and you just forget them. But that was just funny as shit to look at. So, good morning, people. With me here is Dead Horse and G Webs. G Webs hosting for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing?
Fair to Midland? How about you guys?
Hanging in there like usual.
Well, after last night's county board vote, I am spectacular this morning.
Yeah, it sounds like you got all the good news. Let's lead the show with that, huh?
Yeah, last night my county board voted to become a sanctuary county and to put a referendum on the ballot about. So I'm not quite sure of what they're intending to do here because basically it sounded like they said they wanted to put a referendum to the voters whether Tazewell County should ignore the state. But, it was all wrapped up in lawyers, so I'm not sure that's what it was or not. But we are today a gun sanctuary county, and that's another one in Illinois that's saying fuck you to the state and the city of Chicago. So, yay. Go us.
That's awesome. So you know it because the vote happened and they told you the results of the vote, or is it like in the paper this morning?
It was a unanimous vote on the board, so that was easy.
Okay. So I guess my question was, if it was in the paper, I was going to ask how many other states, counties might have done. Do you happen to know?
At last count, I think it was above. It was like 22. This would make 23.
Oh, I mean, I guess I was assuming that other counties might be voting last night also.
I don't know. It's not
not a state thing. It's a county by
right.
county. Cool.
A lot of other counties vote earlier in the month than we do. We vote right at the end.
Now, you went to the county meeting?
Affirmative.
And then, was there a lot of turnout, or were you one of the few that showed up?
There certainly was more than the room could hold.
Really? And that was all pro-gun people?
Not exactly. There was a referendum on changing the way we get a county auditor, too. And there was a number of people there about that.
Got a weird county if everybody's all up in arms about the way that you pick out an auditor. That seems like a super specific business thing or something.
They want to change from the people voting for it to an appointed position because the last elected auditor is not smart enough to do the damn job.
Wow.
So, there's people that are opposed to changing a voting position to an appointed position, but it really probably needs to be done. An auditor's position, you need to have a CPA in there or somebody at least reasonably educated in that way.
Yeah. Competent in that kind of field, right? Or in that kind of area.
And people get heated when your right to vote on something gets threatened. So that's what that was. I personally didn't give a shit one way or another on that. But a certain number of those are pro-gun too. You know, in this whole damn deal, I have never wanted our counties to ignore or circumvent state law. That was not my intention in this at all. It was just to make a fucking statement. You know, that Illinois ain't Chicago.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that's the statement, though, is to ignore the law, I guess, because really it's a law that adds infringement from government or from federal law, which is basically silent on the matter. Illinois said that's not enough for us. We need to infringe, right? And now your county's just saying, no, we don't need. So it's not like you're going out of your way to not, or you're not going out of your way to do something to disobey the law. You're going to be disobeying the law by doing nothing.
And that's the part I think they're voting on.
Okay. Okay, so like whether or not we're going to just say we're going to choose to remain silent and just not enforce this, or if we're going to make a big deal about it and say, hell no.
You know, because there's a point where the local law enforcement could just choose to not help state level law enforcement on this issue. And the board was scared of that. You know, to just say that outright, we're not going to help with any infringement laws. You know, several of the board members said they were really uncomfortable with asking their employees to break the law. And I don't know. For them to not go after stuff on their own is one thing, but for them to not go after stuff that they're asked to by the state, I don't know. I don't know where the hell.
Oh, I see what you're saying. All right. Well, I mean, if you're saying like if the state made a phone call and said, hey, we need you to do this for us, like they'd have to say, no, we're not going to because of the way we're told to do our job here.
Yeah, see, because, you know, our state police is only so much.
Right. That's true.
They require a lot of local help. And, you know,
because it's one thing to say we're not going to go out and pursue anything, but yeah, now they'd have to make basically a point to not, whatever that's called, collaborate with another department, and yeah, potentially criminals will be getting away and stuff. So,
and that was the part they're afraid to do. So they're putting that on the ballot for referendum, which we're the first county I've heard of doing that. You know,
well, it is a gray area, so that at least it seems like they're aware of that concept or that potential, and they're making an allowance for it. Because honestly, it's not like your county wants to see criminals armed. They certainly don't want to see criminals have no consequence, right? So I can totally see where they'd, you know, it's not crazy to go, we're not going to go around enforcing these laws because we don't like them. But if the state police come calling and say, help us, you know, stand behind us when we enforce this one law here, I can see them saying we'll comply with that because they need us and we have this agreement with them to provide their backup or whatever.
Oh, I think they were more specific than that. They're talking about gun confiscation and stuff like that. They're not willing to do that. You know, if the state were to ban ARs, they're not going to go and enforce that law here.
Oh, so it's not just like, here's the law that exists and we're going to say no to it. It's like, we're going to make a statement that no matter what you ever pass, it ain't going to apply here.
In regards to the Second Amendment, yes.
Nice.
And that's pretty much
another thing, and I don't know, I mean, it's not like you can just call up the mayor, I'm sure, but have you guys heard of this pact type of, oh shit, what was it called? It was called something else. It might have been called a contract, but The way it was described to me, they tried to do it here in Arizona. States have a certain amount of power, and federal has a certain amount of power. Of course, county and cities are underneath of all that. But when you get into situations like the rivers, right? Colorado River touches Nevada and Arizona and California, technically Mexico, right? So there's lots of people with interest in that river, and none of them gets to say it's theirs, and none of them has to bear all the responsibility for it either, and the costs of it, right? So they create these pacts or contracts with each other, and they deal with shared resources and other things you could imagine, right? But river is a good, easy way to think about it. So that's the way it was described to me. They're going to potentially take that type of an agreement between states and say, if you try to adjust the Second Amendment in any of our states, you have to convince all of our states, and before we'd even consider it, so that you're basically locking it in that, like, you can fool California, but they're making a deal with us that you'd have to fool us also. And I don't know if that's something that the counties can do as a way to, they must have something, because I'm sure there's some sort of borders with counties where they share a lake or a river or some other thing, right? So I'm sure there's some sort of arrangement between counties. So in other words, if there's this arrangement between states about the Colorado River, and then the Army Corps of Engineers comes over and says, hey, nobody minds if we just build a big ass dam here, do you? Or does anybody mind if we blow up this dam that you're not using? Those states might say, hell yeah. Arizona might not care because maybe they win from that whole thing. But now California and Nevada are going to say, hell yeah, we care. So, you know what I mean? The Army Corps of Engineers doesn't just get to walk in and do whatever they want. So maybe it's the same way. If the states were to say, you mess with us, you mess with all of us, and then, I don't know, ATF or state police or whoever it is comes down, then it's a tougher fight.
I don't know. I think I figured we was grasping at straws with this county thing. The resolution of a gun sanctuary. But it has taken off quite a bit more than I expected. I never figured my county to do it, really. I mean, the southern counties in Illinois, that's one thing. They're pretty damn rural. Hell, if you go through southern Illinois, it looks much like Kentucky, Tennessee. But up here, we're near Peoria County, so, sometimes these counties want to seem enlightened and futuristic, but no, I don't see Peoria County ever doing this, simply because of Peoria. I do not think the county to the east of me, McLean County, will do it either, because they have Bloomington Normal. I'd like to see it, but I don't think we will. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of hang out and see what goes on with it at the moment. I was glad that I initially communicated with the guy, the president of the county board, and I sent him a copy of the Effingham resolution to look at. But I don't know. I'm just curious what the map looks like today. I'm waiting for Mike.
I was going to say, are we too early, Rosie?
I don't know. I'm not looking at anything other than I'm on
the Gun Channel's chat dead silent, even though it's better, even though it costs a bunch of money to exist, even though it doesn't have any Google support at all, even though everybody, is a member over there, dead silent. You could read a newspaper off the reflection off the stagnant glass water on the Gun Channel site this morning. YouTube side has a bunch of people in there chatting about whatever. Chatting about what we're talking about. And making Tombstone references.
It is a little early yet, and we haven't been all that reliable, so.
Oh, that's not our fault. That's the fault of the audience to not be here every single day waiting. we're like talent, right? You watch old show about the movie actors and actresses. They got to do whatever they wanted.
God, I have to pick the wrong fucking business, I can tell you.
No, there's no point in turning on the laptop. Nobody's over there. So anyway, one day we had to wait a couple of 3 years, I guess, to get daytime chats. We had to wait 4 years to get multiple concurrent evening chats. I can wait. We're not here. It's not a race to get to these 4 or 5 things first. It's a race to master the internet. So eventually we'll get to where a ton of people are hanging out on gun channels. We had a pretty good run. Were you guys, either of you guys, around? And I don't remember everybody's, time frames over here. When Ghost Town Custom Knives was doing his thing on gun channels and the live stuff.
I wasn't.
Oh yeah, I definitely remember him.
Because he was a guy who would make, his dad made custom knives. They would take apart a buck knife, take the wood part out of a buck knife, and then do all kinds of fancy stone and mosaic type of stonework, really intricate, like photos almost, but made out of rock and whatever. So really neat type of artwork on these knives. And his dad did it, and he followed. I guess his dad drove around doing it at shows and events and festivals and carnivals and things. And then Huck learned at his dad's feet, and then eventually gathered the stuff and got hand-me-down equipment from his dad and all the skills, of course. And then he eventually had a bunch of his dad's clients, and he had his own stuff. So anyway, he was really a cool dude. And the same way that like Dead Horse will be on here reloading with his camera on and just sharing what he's doing, Huck would just have his camera on all the time. So he'd be in it, he'd be working all the time because he worked out of his garage. So, like a lot of people, they work constantly. So he would put the camera on. There were people doing live chats. He didn't have enough bandwidth to do the chats himself, but if Quark or one of the other people had a chat going, more than likely Huck was in there. And for the longest time, gun channels was all-nighters. That's all it was. There was nothing happening. It was ghost town during the day. This time of day was when everybody was asleep, and it didn't get going until long into the afternoon. But all night long, it was crazy. Tons of people, standing room only. Probably even had more than one live lobby going all night long for a while there. There was truck drivers and people like Huck that were doing work and stuff at different abilities to turn on their cameras and stuff. But anyway, Huck was a cool dude as far as getting his sharing his workbench with us and his whatever projects, and I guess you could say frustrations with customers and clients, and the successes he had and the stuff. It was just a neat way to experience his small business. And eventually I'd like to see that with the daytime, see, like, look at Ponnery. He's able to jump in, and that adds so much to gun channels, right? To be able to know that he's there to hang out, and everybody's got to know him now. So imagine if we had a room full of Ponnerys and Hucks. We'll get there.
Shit. You're talking about all that stonework. I'm trying to figure out how to sharpen a goddamn knife.
Dead Horse, what do you use sharpen knives?
Oh, what stone? A hard Arkansas stone. I got a couple different grits of hard Arkansas stone, and it really is just about trial and error and technique, and a big thing about it is determining what are you cutting with it, because that all depends on your edge. So I'd rather have like a more blunt, less sharp edge, like if I'm cutting cardboard, and it lasts a lot longer versus like a really super fine, like razor sharp edge and stuff like that. So depending on what I'm cutting with it, like that's how I sharpen my knives too. And it's just, I don't know. There's just a certain style and technique. There's some really good videos on YouTube and everyone kind of has their own little gist on it. Really, there's almost like no one straight right way unless you buy a sharpener or something. But I prefer just to do mine by hand on a regular stone.
What do you use, Tony?
I got stone.
Yeah, the same thing here. I was a little kid, I'd have to sharpen chisels, and I don't know if they did that intentionally or just because I was there. But I think I learned angles and everything off of chisels because it was a little easier, kind of flat.
I can fucking sharpen drill bits okay, but not a goddamn knife.
Really, that's interesting. I've always used a machine for drill bits. I never really tried by hand.
Oh yeah, I've always used a drill doctor for drill bits. Like I'd be afraid to do one by hand.
This is Pink has a couple probably of Huck's things, and this is one of them. He just posted it on the Gun Channel site because he is watching on Gun Channel. What do you know? He's got one of the gray bordered Gen 1. Shit, that might be either a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 Gun Channels patch. That was an old one. I didn't like it because of all that black around it. It bugged me at first, but I don't know. I think it was an accident. I don't think anybody did that intentionally. But what happens is you have all this black around the area is when it's on a patch panel, it stands out way better because when it's all together, everybody else is together and it just looks like a big mess of vomit. But with a thing like this, you get that like room and you can see the G. So it's actually one of my favorite patches now.
Hey, keep things going a minute. I'll be right back.
We can do that. Did you ever?
Yeah, I watched that Huck, make quite a few knives and some really intricate engraving, and then he would do these like, I don't know what you call it, like maybe inlays of different types of rock, right? And so he would have to hand find, like really find to match up all these different rocks to fit together with inside this handle, and then I can't remember what he was using to hold it all. Like he would put something over it, like some kind of like acrylic over it or something, and
it's like
it was really neat, right?
Like a Jewish, like epoxy concrete.
Yeah, like see the dragon on that knife. Like I think that dragon on that knife you're showing is a completely different stone. That's not like colored. Like that's a different type of rock than the green stuff, right?
On that one, that dragon would melt down silver coins or silver jewelry into silver, and he would mix it the way he liked it for this working it, and then he would pound it flat, and then make the dragon design, and then it went in there as part of the mosaic. But that's a chunk of silver, the dragon.
Mosaic, that's the word. That's what I was looking. Yeah, I watched him build a bunch of different mosaic stuff using all sorts of different shit.
Oh yeah,
like that. That was
one time. I forget who it was anymore. Might have been Cork. Cork was sending him a bunch of fucking rocks and shit. But somebody had sent him like all kinds of like little fragments and chunks that I guess what probably most people would look at that box and go, oh, there's a bunch of broken rocks in here. And he was stoked because it was a bunch of, interesting ones and rare stuff. And I remember him being stoked. And then people would send him files and shit so that he could make knives out of the files. And that was cool because he wasn't fucking rich. I went to his house. He was just a regular dude living in a place that's kind of not really a ski town. I guess it's just a place because in Arizona it's so fucking hot. It's just a place that's higher than the rest of Phoenix. So it's not that it's like all that awesome. It's just that it's probably 10 degrees cooler, 20 degrees cooler. So people go there. But it's really just the top of a hill. It's not like there's a ski lift or any kind of restaurants or anything. It's just a town that's up a little bit. And he just lived there and freaking, well, his wife was doing stuff, I guess, but, he would work in the garage pretty much all evening, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And he would talk guns too and stuff. Like, I mean, the guy was totally cool. And I haven't seen him for a while. Last time I saw him in here was probably like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 months ago or 8 months ago. It's been a while. Like he was, I think he had just gotten done moving somewhere. Can't remember where.
He ended up moving from Arizona to Washington or Michigan to the occupied territory of Wisconsin, and then I guess he just had enough regular customers or whatever that he could just keep in contact with them, and I don't know. That's the problem sometimes when you got a thing when people aren't obligated, and I don't send out like, hey, what happened? Why'd you leave? Kind of shit. So I guess I have no idea. But unless somebody says something on the way out, you never know.
Oh, and for all we know, that guy could be working a full-time job and doing his thing on the side and family and kids, and you just like life happens, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes I get tied up for a week or two straight, man, and I'm like nowhere to be found, right? And like everything, you know what I mean? And that just happens. That's life, right?
Oh, but okay, then flats. We're talking gun channels, I guess, because Tony's still away. But look at flat and look at Beaver, right? Even freaking Keeson the other day. Ballistic. There's, that's what gun channels is too. Is a place that people can get back to because they remember it, they're familiar with it, they know that there's going to be somebody here who's keeping track of stuff. So, again, I was talking earlier. We were talking about that on here, right? That with all these different pro-gun rights groups doing their own thing, having their own way of communicating with each other, it would be, I think, a disadvantage to have them all comply with some structure or some organized way of keeping track of shit or disseminating information. And same thing with gun channels. I don't want it to be like, oh, if you're not a regular, then you're not fucking welcome here. Because what the hell good is that? Not everybody's regular all the time. Nobody has the opportunity. People take a 2-week vacation. Hey, there's gun channels. If you want to hang out in gun channels in the evenings for those 2 weeks, yeah, we're here. But if you're here every single day, yeah, we're here. So
just an early watch, man. Everybody's fucking welcome.
Except for a couple of you people that keep showing up, but we're going to send out emails.
Early watch is not generally for the faint of heart, but hey, if you can take it, I'll dish it out.
And dish it out well, you do, sir.
Oh, crap. We're going into freaking heat advisory starting tomorrow. Which means that my ass ain't going out fucking side away from the air conditioner for any more than I just absolutely have to get to the house and get coffee and use the bathroom. But I'm still happy because of the whole gun sanctuary thing.
Okay, so I'm going back here. Oh, sorry, were you in the middle of something? I was just reading.
Oh.
Finally found where the beginning of it all started.
I'm trying to fucking build space.
I also need to go remember that it's about to get hot here and turn off all my fans and stuff because everything's open right now. If you wait too long in Arizona, the sun comes up, then boom, everything you're sucking hot air in instead of medium hot air. Anyway, they're saying because I was bitching that nobody was on gun channels. I guess they're saying if the gun channels work better on the mobile, blah blah blah, that they'd be over there more. So yeah, so I just figured I'd tell people the gun channels, when it's like empty shelves, right? It's empty structure, and it can be built into like a real estate place. It could be built in a classified system like Craigslist or something. You can build it in different ways. So the way that you build it is through plugins for the most part. Unless you're crazy, you're not going to code all that stuff yourself. So you're going to go with this established framework that lots of people use. There's lots of people that come along and build plugins. And when we first built it, we didn't have a lot of direction in mind other than to give ourselves a place to communicate off of YouTube. And it sort of developed over the 5 years. But when we first built it, we just weren't thinking. It's a let's call it an empty set of shelves. We put up, some shelf paper because that was neat. And then we put up a little mirror in the back, like you might do in your locker or something, because that was cool. And then you put your books in there. You can't see that mirror, so you put a mirror on the door now. And that's fine. And then you have a clock in there because once in a while you need to know what time it is. Imagine just putting all this shit in your locker on your shelves or something. Eventually you can't find nothing because there's always something in front of everything. And then it's like, oh, well, this thing depends on that thing, but that thing's way in the back and we never use it. And it's 6 times outdated, right? It's needed to be updated 6 times. So there was that's what happened is we started just finding cool things. Let's just think about like the badges. I don't know, the mobile shit was all these little plugins, and the problem was that after a while it was, number one, impossible to keep up with which ones were out of date and whatever. But then when the big updates happened, every once in a while a larger update will happen to the core stuff. When that happened, all the little stuff started just breaking. Like people would be out of the business and they wouldn't be able to keep their stuff up. Such a major change happened, they're just not able to update their pieces. So when we've got all these complicated, interrelationships between these little stupid pieces to make it look funny or do something, remember how it had a lot of more, I don't know, things that would just like pop up or like give you more options when you would post something on the main page. So it was all these little frills and bells and whistles that were just complicating the works, and one of them was the mobile. So when I did the remodel for the 4th year, what I did is I stripped everything off, right? Everything off. And then if you remember, we had an issue and then it was down for a month. So that helped a lot. Not everything, but the channels were down for a month. That was just a, two things happened at the same time coincidentally, and it sucked for everybody. Anyhow, we pulled everything down, so there are no more plugins. We went down to the base stuff, and then instead of going with 16 different places to do the features that we wanted, because we're gun channels and we're not Craigslist and we're not a movie review system and we're not, a recipe sharing system, we're gun channels. So we bought the channels, and we've got a couple of the core things like the main news feed and like the events that give us some extra piece, some extra functionality. Those all come from one place, and that place wants $1,000 for Android, and they want $1,000 for what the hell is the other one? iTunes or iMac, or whatever the hell you call it, a Macintosh ship. So yeah, when I did the 4th year thing, how much money do we raise? $176 or something, of which $17 goes to them in fees. So $160. I don't have $2,000 laying around. I put $2,000 into Every Second Matters, and I haven't gotten that back. If I had it, I put it into the apps. I'm not bitching, and there's a reason for that, and it's frustrating, but you could keep telling me how you don't like the external app, but I don't want people to think I just don't give a shit. I'm just in a catch-22. There's nothing I can do about the app thing. I can't go back to building it in a sloppy way and use that shitty piece.
There might be some other ways, G-Webs, that I use and that work really good on my mobile. And I just got a crappy Android through like Cricket, which ain't no like, Verizon or nothing. It's crappy cell phone service, right? It's like the cheap cell phone service, and it works surprisingly well. And what I do is when I first go to gun channels, it usually says like when I go to gun channels on my phone, I go through a browser, it pulls up the gun channels mobile site, and I scroll down to the bottom of the page and I hit full site right on the website. And then I hit my settings like on the browser there, because you're in your Google Chrome browser or whatever browser you're using. So I hit the 3 little dots or whatever to the settings, and I go down the list, and there'll be another box that says request desktop site. So between clicking in the settings for my browser to request a desktop site and between clicking full site on gun channels, now it's exactly like using it on the computer. I mean, like exactly. And it runs great. Like I can watch the show and see the chat like on my phone. And then the phone I had before that had a little bit of issue doing that. And an app called Mini Opera. I downloaded it for free. It's like a browser. I went into that browser, went straight to gun channels, had full access to everything in gun channels. It was completely free. And I'm sure there's a ton of other apps that might do that kind of miniaturization thing for the desktop sites. But I had full functionality on gun channels using that app, and I have it now just, like I said, clicking those 2 request desktop site things.
That's one thing I'll say about a Windows phone. Now, it'll go anywhere Windows will, a computer will. It works the same way, except Hangouts. It will not let me do Hangouts.
But it'll let you watch them and see the chat over if you're watching gun channels?
Yep.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And that's another thing where I guess I could talk about. I did QA. I know how to do QA. At least I did in 1997. And, I understand the concept of it for sure. I'm sure it's changed a little bit. But anyway, I'd love to be able to do QA. But there's so many different phones, and there's so many different operating systems. There's so many different browsers. And there's me. And, I think we're about even as far as PayPal, people having subscriptions and stuff. We've been good there. And that's thanks to the people that are doing it monthly, honestly. The yearly people pay for like some of the smaller stuff, and the monthly people are paying for gun channels to exist. So thank you to the people that are on the monthly PayPal thing. Literally, you're paying for gun channels. But I created the Patreon so that we could, not be dependent on PayPal, give people options, because you can't imagine how many people go, oh, I would definitely pay for gun channels if it wasn't on PayPal, but I hate PayPal. Therefore, I'm just going to use gun channels for free, which is fine. I don't care. But we did open up a Patreon, and I think we're at like $78 over there. My goal is to get enough money on Patreon alone for gun channels, in addition to whatever else we do for gun channels, but just on Patreon, so that we can hire Jimmy James and I call it that way, hire Jimmy and freaking have an actual person over here. So that's the only way to let us get to the next level, is to give us some more time than my free time to work on a day. So if it is something that's interesting to people and it's frustrating for you, you know, we think, be creative and figure out ways that we can grow wisely with intent. Mad growth will not help anything. Having a bunch of, freaking, teenagers over here demanding something isn't going to help nothing. Having a bunch of, I don't know, any meaty segment of the population who wants a bunch of stuff isn't going to help nothing, because there's just a couple of people supporting the whole thing. Night Strike and a couple of the other guys helped me out with keeping the place running, but I don't know. If anybody's interested truly in keeping it going, it is a collaborative effort. So I don't know. Turned into a gun channels chat this morning, but we go with where
it comes down to, it's a community is what it is, and communities are supposed to work together to succeed. Communities, like, let's face it, communities who don't work together and stuff, like, they don't do fare very well, right? And it's always the communities that really work cohesively and together, that those are the ones that really have like nice communities. So
honestly, I'm just answering questions in the chat. I honestly have no idea how much it would cost to hire Jimmy, but I'm guessing it's more than $78 a month. So I mean, that being a goal, I mean, yeah, we all miss Jimmy. And
he was pretty cheap.
Yeah, Jimmy was definitely willing to do it. We tried hard, but it just did not work for us at the, at the end of last year, really, is when we tried a lot. Jimmy and I were working really hard to get to that point, because that is the next necessary step. I mean, it can't be a one-man thing, or, I shouldn't say that. It's probably about a three-man thing right now. We need somebody who's full-time to be able to do it. But anyway, we can move on. And I'm not asking for anybody's money. Seriously, it's not about the money. It's about having, 1,000 decent people that are interested in it. That turns into enough, whatever, internet motion to support it. But like right now, I can't do advertisers because there's just not enough time in the world to tabulate how much numbers Gun Channels makes to talk to an advertiser about that. Anyway, we don't.
Of all the changes in Gun Channels recently, there's only one thing that I miss, and that's the chat on the main page.
Oh, that was cancer. Yeah, but during the day it was great. At night it was cancer.
That was a great option to come in and just sit and watch that when nothing was going on. But now it seems like nobody talks in the chats anymore.
Well, and some of that is tech. Like we're saying, right now we have a code issue because of stupid Europe and their stupid, what do you call that? Their privacy thing. Like that was a big pain in the ass, and that caused the place to change something. And because of that, they upgraded to a whole new dumb chat, and nobody likes it. So. Sorry, I'm reading the Instagram side. I think they're being funny or whatever, but if they're going to continue to do that, let's block them. So got lost and I got distracted there. Too tired. I'll be running out of batteries here for too long.
You just need to stick the battery charger on your nipples, man. You'll be fine.
No, I got to remember how to delete somebody off of Instagram.
I have no idea. I've not ever been on Instagram, ever.
I took care of it. It was
Wait a minute, that's a lie. I do have Instagram too. Jimmy made me get it, or did it. I can't figure out how to post pictures on the sumbitch without using my phone, so it's like, fuck it. I don't use my phone for shit.
Oh shit, Pink's been posting all kinds of stuff over on the gun channel side, pictures of stuff that Huck made him.
Yeah, I ain't watching anything because I'm on cell data speeds right now, and it's all I can do is stay in this. You can tell it's the end of the month. I ain't willing to drop an extra $20 for a couple of days.
I hear that.
Oh no.
All right, so we talked about Tony's thing. We got totally sidetracked on boring stuff about gun channels. That's what happens when I'm freaking loopy, though. I was tired about an hour ago, and then me and Diddlers were chatting, and that kept me up. But now it's hitting me again.
Right, the next thing we should go to is Kennedy retiring.
Oh, okay. Let's do that. So we had just had the decision on Heller, which was 6-4. Let me go grab my Instagram and it'll tell us.
Yeah, it was.
So we had 5-4. Sorry. So Roberts, Alito, Thomas, Kennedy, and Scalia were on voted for Heller, and you're saying Kennedy is stepping down. So one of the pro-gun ones stepped down?
Yes.
All right. And then were they all pro-gun, or were like one of them voted guns pro-gun, but he was really kind of anti-gun? Because I
don't know, but this is supposed to give us a 6-3 margin of conservatives on the thing if Trump gets appointed conservative.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
It wasn't.
So I'm gonna open up this Instagram thing, and I pulled this from somewhere. I didn't make it up. So they're saying that these 5 voted for Heller and these 5 voted against Heller. So these are the anti-gunners and these are the pro-gunners, and they're saying Kennedy's a pro-gunner. So unless he's a liberal who voted pro-gun for some whatever technical reason, then it seems like we're losing a pro-gun guy.
We are. He actually didn't really start off that way. He kind of swung that way from what I read later in his year, like as it went on. Like he became more conservative as it, like, you know, especially like right before his retirement, as he got older, basically, he became more and more conservative, which is just kind of a way of life almost. And they also said that, like, I'm seeing places like Bloomberg and Huffington Post and all that, like literally saying like goodbye Justice Kennedy and goodbye gun control, because like that, like they're almost like throwing into, like, they know like Trump's getting a conservative judge in there. And so yeah, I think Tony's absolutely right. I think we're gonna have 6-3 now, conservatives basically.
The big outcry I've heard is overturning Roe v. Wade. That's what the left was screaming about this morning. So I don't know. I'm not going to get into my views on abortion here, but shit, that's way down on the fucking radar for me.
And Justice Kennedy was known as the middleman in the gun rights thing. He was the one that was like kind of in the middle, and he was known to read gun control laws broadly. So not only will we might replace him, like we might replace him with like even a more pro-gun guy, really. Like, so it's probably going to be a good thing. I really think Trump's going to get another conservative in there.
I agree that Trump's going to go for a conservative, but I don't see Trump. Nothing that Trump has done at all makes me think that 2A is like number 1 for him. Like, it's a great.
Oh no! I think it's the economy's number 1.
Right. Or maybe some kind of, if he thinks he can do some kind of immigration thing, you think he's that worried about that, or the wall or some shit, like he's going to try to stage justice for some reason like that. I don't know if any of those things are going to the Supreme Court.
Generally speaking, though, the 2A falls in with the conservative.
I'll be back in a bit.
All right. I mean,
either way, I think we're going to get someone who's more pro-gun than anti-gun. You know what I mean? Because because let's face it, like most conservatives are pro-gun, and at least in some fashion, right? Some might say, "Oh, I believe in common sense gun reform or whatever," but when it really comes down to it, they still believe Americans should own guns. Where there's a lot of Democrats who are like, "Oh no, you shouldn't own any gun," right? So I don't think anyone that we're going to get in there is going to be as bad as like a fucking Democrat. You know what I mean?
I just want to get somebody in there that understands English. You know, that can read the Second Amendment and understand it the way it was written.
So what's the guy's name? The guy who's the top runner?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Was it? I think it was Mike Huckabee, and he was from here in Utah. I think. Or no, am I thinking of someone else? I don't know. I think the guy who thought I heard something about Mike Huckabee. I might be thinking wrong. So, I thought I heard that name thrown out there. I don't fucking know.
He'll have a hard fight because he's evangelical.
Oh no, okay, I got it wrong. Mike Lee. Mike Lee is one of the top runners, I guess, maybe.
I don't know. Trump had a list of like 20.
Yeah, I guess Mike Lee has Cruz's nomination. Senator Cruz said that he nominates Mike Lee. And
I believe that Cruz is pretty staunch conservative.
I'm hoping like Trump puts some young guy in there, dude. Like for real, like some 35-year-old guy or something. Yeah, right. Like some guy.
That's what he's shooting for, because he said he wants somebody in there for 40 years or so.
You know.
Yep. And now if we could just get Ginsburg to die or retire.
I heard one of those other ones on the Democrat side or on the anti side was supposed to be retiring.
Well, Ginsburg said she would retire if Clinton won.
What's that?
Ginsburg said she would retire if Hillary won.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Now that old fucking fossil's going to hang in there until she deteriorates to dust, I suppose.
I like reading the comments on that. Ginsburg's place in hell is assured. She is an evil liberal. And then the other guy's like, yeah, liberal. Rest in peace, Scalia. It's funny. Her place in hell is assured. That's great. She just looks, dude. Just look at her, dude. Look at that chick, dude. Like, you know she's just evil, dude. Look at that. Like, yeah. How old is she now? Like, isn't she in her 70s?
Oh, I think she's in her 80s.
80s? Let me see here. Justice Ginsburg. All right. Let's see here. Ruth Ginsburg. She was. When was she born? Let's see here. 1933. So yeah, like she's in her 80s. So
that makes her what, 85, 86?
85, yeah.
She looks like 110.
Yeah, she can't be she's not gonna outlast Trump, I don't think. Come on. She's gonna be fucking senile or something. Something. I don't know. Like she doesn't look right. Just look at her, dude. You can just tell. Like she's something like, I don't know.
Well, you know, Ginsburg is a Jewish name, so if the woman's Jewish, and I don't know if she is, but I cannot imagine
Russian Jewish.
I cannot imagine how anybody who's of the Jewish faith can be for gun control. You fucking people, look at your own goddamn history.
She was Russian Jewish immigrants. Is what it says here. She was born to Russian Jewish immigrants, but she was born in New York, so it's not like if she was actually like born over there in World War II and was like 10 years old and 11, 12 years old when that was all going on, then it would probably have been different, right? But she was born in New York, so.
But the Jewish people have been persecuted their whole fucking history. I mean, it's not just Germany.
Well, Bill Clinton's the one who nominated her. He's the one who put her in there. So she like kind of owes that debt to, like to Hillary, I guess. Because Bill Clinton's the one who fucking put her in there, dude.
I cannot understand that. You'd think that Jewish people here would be the most adamant pro-gun people in this country because of their history.
Ooh, I just had it locked on them for like the last half hour. Have you guys ever seen a video where they go through and like talk about each of these Supreme Courts and give a rundown on what's their deal?
Nope.
There's only 9 of them, right? So it couldn't be that difficult for somebody to kind of just give us the bullet points on them, right?
I have never seen anything about it, but I've never looked either.
I mean, I know the NRA does their thing, but I don't know, just from my little bit of 2A history research, I've seen that has a lot of, there's a lot to the NRA ratings and stuff. I guess you could say it's 4D chess or 3D chess or whatever that, like they play a couple of moves or whatever. I guess knowing that when they know that they don't have the number or the numbers that the big lobbyists have, then what they'll do, I guess, the NRA, at least from what I understand from reading, I think objective reviews of like their strategy or whatever, is if they've only got X amount of dollars to spend and that X amount is pretty much dwarfed by pharmaceuticals and other corporate interests and unions and stuff, then what they'll do is they'll target that money that they do have at smaller influential races. So if there's somewhere where they can swing an area, Democrat to Republican or whatever they need to do, then they'll go after a few key people. And I guess what happens is the big money just, is like Feinstein. There's no need to mess with Feinstein, right? So what bugs people about the NRA is that, or bugs the big players about the NRA, is that since the big players are all kind of set and they're being funded by the big money lobbyists, that the NRA goes in and screws with that middle ground of people who are influenced by, the NRA being able to throw a couple $100,000 in an area. And because of that, it's difficult. Again, looking at people who objectively look at this stuff, it's difficult for the NRA to say, here's what we're directly responsible for. Because what they've done is taken $1 million and dropped it into 200,000 in 5 different areas, for 5 different reasons. Because here they're trying to get, vote, or what do they call it, area mandering or whatever, stifled, or here they're trying to oppose universal background checks, or here they need to get, a less, any conservative vote on a panel or some kind of board or whatever.
According to the Today Show, Lee is one of the top contenders, along with some dude named Hardigan and another one that I don't remember because I can't be bothered to think. I have never been anti-NRA. Get pissed off at them because of their willingness to compromise and shit, because the NRA's always done that. I get pissed off at the NRA for their shitty business practices. They shouldn't be a fucking business at all.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, despite whatever they're doing for whatever reasons, I think it'd be nice to have just an objective Second Amendment look at who some of these people are. Like, here's who they are. Here's what they voted. Like, I don't need to know what they, they need votes in the next election or whatever, or if it's important for them to win or what. Just want to have like a running scoreboard of everybody.
That would be nice.
And then, somebody who's objective, or a place that's objective, is going to have like, they voted this many times, yes, they voted 0 no's, but then they sat out 72 times, that kind of shit. So you get a real full picture of the way that these people are playing the game, so that, oh yeah, we've got a great rating because we've never actually voted against guns, right? Just that we've always sat out every vote, and we've only ever voted once yes when it was wasn't effective, or when it wasn't necessary or something.
Kind of like on this latest immigration bill where the Democrats just didn't vote.
I thought they voted 190 no's. Some Instagram thing I saw that said that they voted unanimously against.
The last thing I seen, the one that they just did past couple of days, no, they didn't vote at all.
Oh, maybe
that Senate, I think.
So maybe it wasn't, I was reading the wrong column. Maybe it wasn't that they voted against it. Maybe it was that they didn't vote, and then the Republicans all voted.
Right, and they had a couple that disagree with the whole pathway to citizenship thing, so they wouldn't vote for it. They'd vote against it. That's where I kind of have issue with the conservative side of this, because while there is pathway to citizenship, these kids that are here and have been here for most of their fucking lives, you can't hardly just throw these kids out of the country and say, fuck off. Because their parents brought them here illegally. This country is built on immigrants. So, deal with that fucking fact, people. It is what we are.
Is it crazy to think that if you stop trying to deal with it all federally, that people in the areas would be able to effectively diagnose the situation and come up with creative ways that work for the areas?
I don't know. I mean, this is where the border wall, quote unquote, has merit to control the point of entry. But
I don't agree with that. We got Cuba. We got a expanse of water that's dangerous and lethal, and people bring their families across that, right? Not just like well-abled men who want to work, or like drug dealers who are, hardened from the jails. It's like frail people and people that want to flee that oppression, and their children and their grandchildren, right? And little babies and shit. And they've got that deal where if they can hit the ground, then they're good to go. And if they're in the water still, then they send them back or some shit. So it's pretty much like, oh, we know the odds, we know the rules, and we're still going to take our little baby and try to get to that country. So why would there be a big wall going to stop anybody? They build tunnels under the freaking shitty wall, the little chain link fence everybody bitches about. There's tunnels underneath of that because it's faster than trying to get across the chain link fence.
Well, my wall has to have a gate to let people in every few miles. I'm not talking about stopping people from coming in. I'm talking about directing them through actual points of entry. I don't think we should stop people from coming here at all. I really don't. I think we should stop them from coming here illegally.
But what about is it the Merriam's turkey and the jaguar and the Coues deer and I don't know, however many birds? I don't even know about reptiles, probably migrating spiders and other bugs. I don't think butterflies give a shit. Birds probably don't care. But I don't see any reason to have a fucking giant wall. The only place that's ever had a wall is stupid-ass China and stupid-ass communist Berlin. And I don't want to... Israel has a giant-ass wall because of Palestine?
They have a giant-ass wall, and after they built it, all their suicide bombings and all that, like, turned into, like, nothing. Like, they don't get suicide bombed anymore and stuff. Like, they don't get...
We got suicide bombing? Is it a natural or is it a border the size of our border? Because I suspect that's
Dude, it's a huge ass fucking wall. That's all I know. I don't know if it goes around the whole country, but I think it's like between like what, Palestine and Israel, right?
No,
So
I
like
think it's town. I think it's like the Berlin Wall. I mean, the Berlin Wall had the communists who fucking built nuclear bombs. We're going off of Instagram. So anybody watched on Instagram? Well, I guess it's over. The communists had enough money to go head to head with us in the Cold War, and they could only build the Berlin Wall shitty. Granted, there was people actively working against them, but there is kind of an entire half of a fucking hemisphere that would be technically working against it, or not technically, potentially working against it. Anyway, I guess what I was thinking is if you get rid of government influence, where the government decides federally they have to have somehow, number one, all the money that they'll allocate, and number two, all the bureaucracy which they'll create to help these kids out. When the kids are coming to Arizona, Florida, and Texas, and our old people retire to California, Arizona, Florida, and Texas. So why can't civic and religious and just humanitarian organizations hook up old people who wish they had more grandkids and little kids that need help for a little while together? And why does the government have
on the southern border of Mexico, along like is it Honduras or Guatemala there? Like, it's either one of those countries, maybe both, but they have a huge ass like fence and wall and stuff like that along that whole border, and it's all regulated. And they if people cross that border into Mexico illegally, they get taken to jail and deported, and and all that kind of stuff. And
fascism?
They do the same thing. Like, they do the same thing.
I wouldn't want to model my shit after fucking horrible fascism. I'd like to look at the Canadian border where we don't have to worry about shit, and the Mexican border that we, up until now, we had fucking Pancho Villa and shit. We still didn't build a fucking wall. Okay, sure, there wasn't an ability to build a wall, but they could have. Fucking China built a wall way before fucking Pancho Villa. Anyway, it's also, you guys have to go down here and look at the fucking wall. I mean, how big do you fucking think Texas is? And that's a chunk, right? And then you got all of New Mexico, all of Arizona, and all of California. So
you're kind of misunderstanding what I'm talking about, though. I'm not talking about building a wall. The wall is more of a euphemism for border control.
Oh, okay.
I don't give a shit how they manage it. I don't want to see a fucking wall there. That's stupid.
No, I just hate the idea of having a physical brick, or like I saw one thing that's like a train on top, like a giant metal wall with like a train on top. So just this huge scar on the whole planet, like as a monument to that we don't know how to deal with each other. Like we can't work with our neighbors.
I think that disincentivizing coming here would be more effective than anything, and that's ending the food stamps and public assistance to non-citizens. You take away that promise of a free ride, and people really don't find it so appealing here, especially if they watch TV anywhere, because we got to be the most deadly country on earth. All bullshit, but
That's true.
I mean, I do not think that we should stop immigration. I don't even think that we should vet immigration. I mean, that's never been what we did.
Have you guys ever watched the population thing that I got Pawnery kicked off of YouTube with?
I was in there.
Okay, so you remember that thing. Like, the numbers are massive. Like, when I watched that gumball guy and that other guy who's even better, I guess, but the gumball guy, when you start talking about numbers, I mean, there's a shit ton. So I'm okay with people that want to say, at least I'm willing to have a theoretical discussion about people that say close the fucking borders. But I don't need to do that with a fucking wall. We got plenty of people. We can do that with tech. I want to be like critters. That's my thing. I want critters. I don't want
drones. You talking like drones and stuff, that kind of tech, or what kind of tech?
Any kind of tech. I'm just saying the amount of money it would cost to put into a physical wall. You could do a billion different kinds of tech or employ people. Because I just want to see if you really want to go nuts with something like that. Like I say, I'm willing to talk the theory of it, just not with a fucking wall, because I want it to be reversible, and I don't want to have a massive wall. I live down here where I want to see diversity in turkeys and freaking deer and freaking butterflies and all the rest of the shit that lives out in the desert out here, because I cherish that. I think that's something that's valuable. I think the reason that whoever it was that started the parks and the natural the protection of our natural resources was smart. I think that's one of the reasons that our country's better than a lot of stupid ass countries that let all that shit go to shit, and they live in swamps and fucking, horribleness now. Like, I like that. And Mexico isn't doing a great job. They're doing a pretty good job, but Mexico is a freaking bounty compared to down here. And I don't want to cut off Mexico and say, hey, go rot, because they got way more natural resources than we got. In fact, I'm willing to take a theoretical discussion that we just take them.
Yes,
Well,
buddy.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
State
that would
number
be the
51.
ultimate answer. For
Yeah.
real.
Seriously.
Just invade them and be like, guess what? You're part of America now. We're going to break you up into 5 states. So, like, you're going to be like
10 maybe. I don't want a bunch of Californias. But yeah, I mean, seriously,
like 10 states, you think?
you guys are imperialists. You're imperialists. Like, yeah, let's give imperialism a try real quick. At least just this half of our hemisphere. Like, just because they always call us America anyway. So sure, and then we'll take Canada too.
Yeah, exactly. And Canada and then just South America, and then we'll be
no,
set.
South America would work out. South America, I say, once we have the northern half of this hemisphere, I suspect South America will be like, they'll be cool. They'll be down with that, because we'll have this shit to tight up here, and we'll buy everything they got. You know what I mean? And here's the thing. When you want to start talking natural barrier, the barrier between Central and South America, that jungle little tiny ass piece, you don't have, there is nobody walking.
Panama, yeah.
No, south of Panama, where South America and like, what is that, Bolivia or Peru, not Peru, but Bolivia. Colombia. Like, it's mountainous. There are no roads. It's too mountain. It's like physically not possible to tread past there. And you don't even need to build a wall. Like nature built like a Jurassic Park wall. People can't get through there.
Well, you got the Panama Canal that cuts through the whole country of Panama, right?
We would own it. If we took over all in Central and North America, we would own the Panama Canal. That would be our piece. So we'd have the Panama Canal. They would have to use our Panama Canal. I'm talking South America. But like I said, we would buy everything they had. They would love it. We wouldn't have to take them over, I guess is what I'm saying. We could just take over Canada and Mexico.
But I say insane dictator starts fucking with our supply of stuff, we can just go kill him and put somebody else in.
All right. So if we go take over Mexico and there's a war, how many hours is that war going to last?
Like 15 minutes. Like I said, it'll probably be cheaper. All right.
You think most of the people would be like, yeah, like we're cool with that. We want to be part of America.
Yeah, exactly. Woohoo! They were done.
Like, yeah, I'd be okay with that. Then boom.
How long does it take? It'd be like France. It'd be like, how long does it take to throw our guns fucking down? That's how long the war would.
Okay, now what I think the war would really be with though is like the cartels and shit. Like those are the gonna be the guys.
Okay, you're right, but that would take like 15 minutes once we were down there. 15, 20 minutes tops. I mean, it's not like they're skilled fucking tacticians or nothing. They're just down there running wild, and there's nobody stopping them. You know what I mean? They're not like, no, they're not. We could have our recruits go down there, I suspect, as like training. I mean, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but I'd still think like any of our cops could go down there and clean it up if they would just let them, right? They just have to stop at the border right now, and that's how they get to keep doing their thing down there. Hopefully no cartels listen to this, because now I'll be on
the drug trade would probably move south pretty quick.
Well, if we took over Mexico with our, 90% medicinal and encroaching some amount of percent of recreational, we would probably just make those states recreational. Just let those crops stay there and make money, right? Oh, I don't know about the cocaine stuff, though. Is that what you're talking about? I think that's in Mexico too, right?
Well, the cocaine and heroin and whatnot. I have no idea.
Heroin's over in Asia.
I'd just say that the cartels that are in Mexico would probably flee to the south.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I favor the whole of North America becoming the United States anyway. I have for years. Always thought that was a good idea.
It just seems natural. It's our manifest destiny.
Especially when you got somebody like that moron Trudeau running Canada. Like, dude, you're an idiot. Join America, become free.
What if we took all the good Canadians, gave them California, take all the Californians, stick them in, like, I don't know, Eastern Canada? We keep Western Canada so that we can get to Alaska. And then we take Mexico and stop at Central and South America so that anybody who wants to go south can. And then we'll just have this nice chunk
I say we just cut off Baja California and make all the Californians move into Baja California and give them that little like piece, right? And then we can literally just like blow it up at the very edge. So now it's like its own little island. So it's not even like attached to us. I don't even want it like attached to us, dude. Like I want it on an island away from.
I don't quite understand how California has lasted being a liberal bastion so long, because usually people's offspring tend to go the opposite fucking way of their parents, just because that's the natural order of things.
I think I figured it out when I was there last time, because I'm driving through traffic. I think I was telling you guys I was leaving. At one point, I was leaving LA, and I could see the Walmart sign pretty much in front of me, like, you know, just see it out the dashboard, and the thing was telling me it was going to take an hour to get there. So I turned off and sat around waiting for traffic to go by. And I can't even imagine that has to be a different mindset that you'd even, you know, be willing to live with that many people. That's how I think California and Chicago and those places have that. We can't understand it because can you imagine living in the middle of LA where it takes you an hour to go a mile or two?
No.
You know what I mean? Like that takes a whole different kind of brain to want to go live like that, I think. And
I'm enraged when I have to wait on two people to go past so I can go out of the stop sign.
Yeah, or like you got to wait in a store or something. Like there's people that don't even know what it's like to just go in and do something and get the hell out and go live your life.
No, I've been in Chicago traffic a few times, and it's not anything that I would live with. No fucking thanks. Does make for a good case of banning cars. Jesus Christ, people, some of you fuckers could hop on a bus or something. Wow, did I get booted?
No, I'm reading to see if all the California people are mad.
I ain't hacking on California so much as I am the big city, but and the whole, you know, I don't understand how the fuck that state stays liberal. Is just generally your offspring tend to go the opposite way you are, just out of spite. So thank God mine did.
They got one more day. Tomorrow's the last day, I think, for them to register their guns, right? And unless they comply by putting a bunch of stupid, ugly furniture on them. And, you know, so I have a feeling here in the next couple years, really, maybe, that a lot of people are going to be going to jail for non-compliance and all that. And then it's when people start seeing their friends and family and loved ones going to jail over this stupid bullshit. That's when I think more people are going to maybe start to wake up. You know, like what? Like you're throwing my husband in jail for 5 years and taking him away from my kids over a piece of fucking plastic on his gun that doesn't do anything, doesn't really, like, just makes the gun look ugly. Like that's the only thing it's effective at doing is literally making the gun look ugly, right? Like, you know. So, yeah. I suspect it's going to take that for them to wake up and, you know, like people start like, because they have all these bullshit laws that can actually be hard to follow. Like the Daily Shooter, a prominent YouTube guy, put out a whole bunch of fucking wrong information the other day in a video, like a whole bunch of wrong information, and was basically telling people like, oh yeah, like you don't have to do this and you don't have to do that, and he was wrong as fuck, right? Like he could have literally costed people, like, you know, like got people in trouble if people took his word for it, right? And that's a pretty prominent YouTuber, and you know, and he had to issue a statement the next day, being like, "Oh, I got it wrong," and it was the people I called at like the Department of Justice or wherever the fuck he called in California, right? And that gave him the wrong info, like to begin with. So, you know, like you can try and do everything right. You can even actually call the fucking law and be like, "Hey, what do I got to do?" And they tell you the wrong thing, and now you're going to jail.
Hold on. Do you mean like bad legal advice, or do you mean like bad safe advice, like about a safely handling a firearm or using it?
Bad legal advice with the California gun registration.
Okay. And I see what you're saying. Now, when he called for clarification, he assumed what he got was legit.
Legit, right? And he put that out there on his YouTube channel and stuff, and he called the source, right? And they gave him wrong info, and he passed that on to everybody else. So I'm saying like that could happen just to a normal guy who's not a YouTuber, who just calls up and says, "What do I got to do?" "Okay, this is what I got to do. Thanks." And then he does that, and he's in violation of the law now because he didn't do everything, or he did it wrong. And now that guy goes to jail, who's like a father of 4 kids and wife and all that, and legal troubles and fees, and like it could ruin somebody's life over a fucking pistol grip. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, and that's what I think it's going to take, is when it hits closer to home and people see that before they actually really start fighting. That's what I think.
I don't know why. I mean, I really don't know why people can't see the problem that this is. I do not get that, especially in California. Granted, they have cities with lots of liberals, and much like New York and New York City. But at the end of the day, and this is something I pointed out the other day, you know, a small percentage of people vote. If we could just get a much larger percentage of pro-2A people to vote, we would win. Every damn time.
You know what I'm convinced will really make us win, Tony? What I'm honestly convinced is for every dad, uncle, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, aunt, whatever that's pro-gun, to take your sons, daughters, nieces, cousins, extend it out, your friends' sons. Like, I mean, your son's friends, right? Or your friend's sons from work or something, right? Like, extend that reach out and take a new kid out shooting with you and with your family and stuff, and offer it out there, right? You get the okay from the parents and stuff. And I'm convinced that once you take them out there shooting and you teach them all the rules and they shoot the guns and they have fun, I'm convinced that they're way more likely to be pro-2A for the rest of their lives than anything else. So I think it's all depends on our youth, really, is just showing them.
At least they'll be immune to the bullshit that's put out on TV about how dangerous the damn things are.
Well, exactly. It's going to be a lot harder for some liberals to sit there and bullshit them, and they're going to be like, "Oh no, I've shot these guns before. Like, I was shooting these guns when I was a little fucking kid," right? Like, you know, they'll be like that. And
let me ask you this: something you brought up there. I don't know if I'm cutting you off. Sorry, but is this a good break?
Yeah.
A lot of times, I don't have kids. You guys have had kids, and you know more baby kids than I do, or little kids than I do. Everybody complains that these little kids are always got their nose in a phone, and they're never paying attention. They don't go outside and play because they're on the computer. They're always playing the video games, and they're warping their mind. Can't go play in parks or none of that kind of stuff. So my question is, are they going to be manipulated by NBC and CBS and CNN? Those media sources are online, but I suspect those kids aren't going onto their phones and checking out CNN like you all are. I mean, you, not you two, obviously, you people who are old and are used to CNN being like whatever the fuck it was called, USA Today, on a piece of paper, and then it was turned into an internet thing, and now it's a a feed, right, on a brand of a feed on a platform. So for people that aren't dealing with that paradigm, and they are more, you know, they're just given this tool that they're just differently familiar with, are they going to be influenced by a couple of fucking Bloomberg agenda-based fucking disseminators?
Eventually.
I think so, because people like Jim Carrey and like these different like stars, right? They're the ones who repost stories from CNN, like, "Oh my God, look at this tragedy and look at this," and they're the ones who are.
I don't disagree. And what are some of the coolest movies that have been coming out? Those are Kickstarter-based movies from people that are clever or, you know, talented, but not, you know, in the know. They're not somebody's grandson or whatever, so they're not rich, so they don't have budgets, but they don't need them because now, you know, people appreciate smaller budget stuff. People fund things themselves. Is it possible that the Jim Carreys aren't going to exist when we know that Hickoks might not even exist? Something as small as a Hickok might leave, and it might just be a bunch of people that are willing to listen to each other. And instead of having to figure out which movie stars have which positions, I'm hoping that we'll have 3 political parties at some point or more, so that we have some nuance. But won't it be more of like, instead of worrying about what position a celebrity has, you'll be more able to vet out what position your peers have? And now, wouldn't that be a more nuanced way of approaching all?
It should be. It really should be. But I think, like, when I look at some of these stars, right, like, let's take the Kardashians, right? There's like how many of those fuckers? And like every single one of their Instagrams, if they post a picture of a fucking sandwich or something, it doesn't matter what it is, they get millions of likes, right? And so when they post a picture of their like wearing their anti-gun shirt and like saying anti-gun stuff, that reaches millions and millions of people. And a lot of that's like young kids who like idolize these like little girls who are like, I want to be just like her, right? Just because she's on TV and on, you know, stuff like that, just popular, right? And they don't necessarily think about the cause and relation, like what actually happens, thinking a certain way or taking a certain side or policy. They don't see the end game or the end effect. They just know that they want to be like that social media star, and so they try and emulate them, and that even to the point of absurd policies and absurd beliefs, they'll still emulate them.
Sure.
That's what I've seen.
But were we on air when we were talking about the numbers to the channels and all that and where they're coming from?
Yes.
I think we were on Angelina's chat still.
Yes.
So, but that's that same kind of thing. Like if you've got an Instagrammer who has, I don't know, 1 million, 1 billion, some large number of views, there's no way for you to go through as a human being and determine where those people are from and how many of them are from there. And Dead Horse and I were talking earlier, when you look at the populations of China or India, other large ass freaking population centers in the world. I don't know if you can hear that truck or not. Yep. When you look at these huge populations, when I've looked at those before through like the CIA fact book, I'm looking at it more like, you know, militarily, there are 300 something million people in this country, period, right? 300 something million. There's 300 and something million men of military age in China. So just in China, there's more men of military age, 18 to 34, than there are in our whole country. They could literally send one soldier over for every man, old woman, old man, baby in this country with a knife and stab us. And then all of their freaking women and old men and shit could come over and hang out and just have to walk all over our dead bodies. So when I look at it in the past like that, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people in China, right? Well, now if instead of giving all them people a knife, you just take the military age men, 320 million of them, what does it take for some of them to go, oh, look at this stupid American looking at her butt, click, 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 click. And he just sends it to, 1,000 who sent it to 1,000, and now she's got 1 million views. And without paying attention to where those views are coming from, And Instagram doesn't give a shit. They don't want you to know that 99,000,000 of those views came from Bangladesh, from 14-year-olds, you know, because it was, and that's not even that was like a Tuesday afternoon laugh. And it left a consequence of 1 million views on this person's channel. That doesn't mean that 1 million Americans are like, oh, we give a shit about this. Or that 500,000 of them said, we give so much of a shit that we look twice. Like I say, that the numbers, the scale is massive. That's 1 out of every 320 males of military age deciding something's funny and clicking on it, or getting duped by a fucking spam email that has the right Chinese writing on it. I mean, people pay people to get clicks, and that's one of the ways to get legitimate clicks. Send something out in a different language that says, check this out. And then you get 1 billion, you know, some other country people clicking on your shit. And since Instagram's never going to tell you where those clicks came from, and like I say, you don't as an individual have the time to start verifying every thing, especially when it gets to like 2,700 clicks. Give me a break. So
I'll tell you right now, I know exactly what you're saying, because I have like, what, 3,000 followers, I think, and I can tell you what right now, that 1,000 of them are from the Middle East, and the other 1,000 are like fake accounts. Like they're not like, they're just like ad accounts, or however you want to put, you know, those fake accounts I'm talking about. Like they're either for like sex sites or something or whatever. They're just like, they're not real people, you know. Yeah. And then I maybe have 1,000 real people actually following me, like.
Yeah, exactly. And I've noticed that for years. And that's like we were kind of talking before. That's why I've steered away from just numbers, because numbers aren't talking to individual people. You're just talking to numbers. And yeah, you got to get to a 6th grade level. You have to get all dumb, because a good chunk, sometimes 80% of those people don't even speak English. They're looking at something funny, or they're looking at something that they can't do in their country. I think that might be an interesting dynamic if some of these giant YouTubers were interested in anonymously allowing somebody to go in and gather data, like a John Lott, right? Somebody who's used to gathering data, somebody who's knowledgeable and understands how to diagnose. What would be the right word? To, you know, how to interpret data. If all the big YouTubers let John Lott go in there, pull all their data and have it in databases, you know, he would keep it like a lawyer or like a clergy. He would keep it private, and, you know, keep it all anonymous for everybody, so they could be comfortable giving them his real numbers as gun channels. Shit, that would be interesting as shit, wouldn't it? We might know a lot about our gun culture, and, you know, via YouTube. But anyway, I suspect if you did that, some of these channels, I'll bet you it's 60, even more % don't even speak English. Like they're just massive groups of people out there that have phones.
No, I agree. I can see that. Like, you know, I think social media influence and like celebrity influence is just way out of hand personally. And let's face it, like even when I was a kid, it was a problem of kids worshiping the wrong idols, right? And having the wrong heroes, right? And I think that's a problem today. Is kids really don't have heroes anymore. Like, or I know, I'm sure some do, right? But a lot of them, I don't think they really do. I don't really think they have heroes anymore. They have basically idols like that they worship, like as gods almost. It's not a hero.
I'm pretty sure the first kid was born, and the second kid, and then the third kid, and then, you know, like the older brothers happened, and then you started having that dynamic, dude. I mean, that's always been. There's always some kid who misunderstood what somebody else said they did, and that's a bad influence. And then there's literally just people being dicks and letting kids know about it, and that's a bad influence. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure that in the 30s, kids were reading about the gangsters and running around being yahoos, and their parents were like, damn it, these kids are trying to emulate bad heroes or whatever. And in the old cowboy days in those dime novels like that, you know, you see the kids running around and their parents are like, don't, you know.
It weren't just the kids. I mean,
well, see, I'm not even talking, see, like these guys are emulating like, you know, stuff like that. But I'm talking about like wanting to be so much like a celebrity that you take on their political beliefs and stuff. And their beliefs, like it doesn't even matter how crazy or whatever they say. That's one reason they say like Hitler got to such high powers, because he became a pop star. I've literally seen, like, people say that, and like people like idolized him. And so I think it's the same. Like people idolize people in such a way. They're like, oh, I don't care what your political beliefs are. I'm going to believe in it too, just
Right.
because I like your music or your movies or whatever.
Like Germany was so boring and like plain vanilla and like oatmeal every morning and like porridge during an evening. Like anybody that came around that had any flavor was like, hell yeah, look at this new deal. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. Kill who? Yeah, whatever. Like there's salt on this. Let's keep going.
If you go back to history here, people like Frank and Jesse James, the Bonnie and Clyde, these were idolized by fucking people. You know, the whole Robin Hood effect, I think. So that's evidently human nature, or at least human nature for Americans.
So, but here's the thing. What's the story of Robin Hood? How would you summarize Robin Hood?
Rob from the rich, give to the poor.
So let's talk about this as a potential argument or discussion to have with an anti. So I think if you asked most people, that's what they're going to say, right? They're going to say it's the rich, or steal from the rich and give to the poor, right?
Yeah.
Right. Except what's Robin Hood? Where's Night Strike when we need him? Where is Night Strike? Robin Hood was
like hood meant thief, right?
No.
Like hood.
He's stealing from the sheriff who's taking taxes unnecessarily from the fuckers. He's stealing from the fucking government and giving it back to the people. So it ain't the rich to the poor. That's a fucking communist interpretation. He's stealing from the fucking tyrannical government, the king, the fucking tyrant who sent out the sheriff, the fucking jackboots, to stand on them and take their fucking taxes. This wasn't rich people that duped them out of their money and fixed poker games or some sort of like, you know, contract that they were outwitted by signing. So that's one of those things that culture is, you know, manipulated.
Misappropriated.
Yeah. But yeah, Robin Hood, I
That's
think,
a
is a tale to remind people that when government and tyranny is too much, you fucking deal with it. I don't think it was like, did he kill the fucking king or did he fuck with the king until the king was embarrassed to quit messing with him? You know, he just took care of business. And I think it might have been a tale of that. Like, just take care of some fucking business. You don't need to kill the king every time he's a dick. You just need to show him that you're not a dupe and he'll go fucking do something else, right? Maybe not.
Well, the king was gone. His brother was doing it.
I don't really remember that part of it. I just remember the part where I heard that one time before, like, what's the story of Robin Hood? And yeah, I would have said the same thing until I heard that somebody mentioned it that way.
I had never thought about it that way either. It's a very good point.
That might work with an anti, right? Because a lot of times I think they are just communists. They fucking hate rich people for whatever reason, even though it was probably because their parents are rich, right? Oh, my parents are rich and they're dicks, so I hate all rich people or whatever their, you know, opinions of all that are. Or like somebody else has a car and they're a dick, so I hate rich people. Or I don't know what people get mad about rich people, but I kind of want to be rich, right? I want the option to be rich. And when I'm rich, or if my kids want to be rich, when they're rich, I don't want them to be the dicks, and I don't want them to, they're not going to turn evil. I'm not going to turn evil. So why would we assume everybody else turned evil? I got a real problem with that whole thing.
I don't know. I never really thought about that sort of thing. I mean, I just want to live to the next fucking day.
He was certainly a thief.
Absolutely.
But I'm just saying who he was a thief about or from, I guess.
Right, and that's great that you bring that up because I had never ever thought of it that way.
Clay saying, well, the kings weren't rich. Yeah, they were rich, but they weren't capitalists. And in this country, rich doesn't mean tyrant king who owns everything because he's the center of government, right? State, which is what tyranny is. It's state, it's government. But no, people here think of rich as people who have, through capitalism, earned fucking money and then accumulated it and then given that to their kids. And somehow if like another person gives money to their kids, they're a dick. But if someone wants to take your inheritance from your kids, they're a tyrant, right? So people can't freaking associate with other people all the time. And yeah, I'm saying it's the perception of that word rich, and it should be
And
state. Good.
I was gonna say the Robin too. Like a lot of people from like the movies, you might think like Robin Hood is the guy's name, right? Hood like literally translated to outlaw. So every time so they were like Robin the outlaw basically, and like that's literally what like Hood was like outlaw. So um, he was definitely not an outlaw to the government, right? Back then, you're exactly right about him. He was like, yeah, stealing from the government, not really from the rich, but like from the government, right? And I believe like that Robin Hood goes all the way back to like before Christopher Columbus, if I remember right. Like that's been around for a long, long, long time.
Robin Hood, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Knights in armor and shit, isn't it?
like it wasn't like a modern recreation that came out in like the 1800s about that period. Like it really took place in that period, and like they had actual plays and stuff and books and stuff about like Robin the Hood, like Robin the Outlaw, right?
Man, deep conversation to hear about many things, and I haven't had enough coffee.
It says just doing a quick internet thing. It says the first literary references to Robin Hood appear in 14th and 15th century ballads. So when they stole,
And a ballad's basically a song, right? Like it's
that's
just
when they would. It was before newspapers, so they would. Yeah, that guy would run around singing all the news to everybody.
Yep.
I had seen somewhere where somebody was trying to make the case whether Robin Hood actually was a real person. And I cannot remember what that was for the life of me. I don't remember if they did or not.
It's probably one of them things like they listen to the story and they try to get the best version of the story or all the different versions of the story and then try to figure out what's town or whatever they could all possibly be talking about and then go find out if there's a dude in that town.
Yeah, something like that, I suppose. I probably should have just kept shut about it because I don't remember enough to talk about it, really. I got a guy fixing steak on TV, so I'm occupied with that. No, I'm just kidding.
News show or whatever where they're cooking.
Yeah. I don't have to watch. I know how to make steak. But back in the day, we did romanticize outlaws here in this country. Now I won't use that Robin Hood thing as a reference.
Many times.
I think the Robin Hood that really existed was called Robin of Locksley. And I think that's the Robin Hood that was actually like a real person. And I don't think like he didn't do all the stuff that he dramatized, but I think he did have like a big beef with like the local government basically, right? And did some shit. Like had like some kind of mini little war with them. But I think that's where that all comes from, and then that's how he got the name, like Robin of Locksley, that turned into Robin the Outlaw.
Quite possible. Almost all stories from history have got plenty of embellishment as they traveled through time.
And a hint of truth.
But I was reading something on the Prohibition era, and there was a thing in there describing why they got away with so much is because the general population would help them because of that. They deemed them as heroes. The population at large is pissed off because they banned alcohol. So I don't know. people are fucking funny, I'll tell you. Lots of them are stupid, too. Not any of our early watch listeners, mind you. I don't know who's listening.
We got 14 people watching right now. Let's see, there's a button I can click over here and it'll tell me right. Participants. Well, this says Pink, Patriot, and John Brown. But I know there's more people than that. Elo, Pickle, P79, Roosted. Marco was out there earlier.
You know, Tony, I did see a documentary on William Wallace a while back. And William Wallace, in that documentary, it said that, if I remember right, it said that a lot of people believe that William Wallace was the original basis for Robin Hood.
Who's Robin Wallace?
William Wallace, like the character from Braveheart, basically.
Oh.
But that documentary said that William Wallace, a lot of like scholars or whatever, believe that he was the original basis for Robin Hood. Is that the one you saw?
I could buy that. I mean, at least a part of it, because Wallace did cause a lot of trouble for the king.
And they linked it to the Merry Men, and they had a bunch of like good valid points. But like they were saying that they believe that like that was, and the king wouldn't let them write about William Wallace or something, is what they were saying. Like they couldn't write his name down, right? So they changed the name, right, and started singing songs. They couldn't even say his name without like punishment, right, in public or anything. So the songs they would sing and the books they would write and all that, they changed the name, like, you know, but that's what it was all like supposed to be based on. That's what that's what they say.
There is precedent for that with England. I mean, there was a time when they could not write about Ireland. So when they wrote stuff, they used metaphors for Ireland. So I can see that. Wallace was pretty clever and really lucky, from what I've seen. I mean, he was smart to confront the English army on a bridge where they couldn't come in force. That was a pretty good tactical move. But
well, he was like the first one to like invade them and take the fight to fucking them, right? In like hundreds of years or something, right? Like he was like he was the first one who like even posed a threat to them, like in like hundreds of years or something, I believe.
My brother-in-law is one to ask about that. He's made pretty good study of Wallace.
Because I think all the French wars and all that came like way after. So I think like if I remember my history, I think like the last time they had like been fucked with was like 900 or something, like, you know, and Wallace I think lived in like what 1100 AD or, you know, 1200, 11. No, it was way before that, dude. It was like 11 or 12, I think. And then maybe 1000, even like 1000, 1100 AD. And then it was like literally like 200 years before that, I think it was like the last time he even fucked with. So he like took the fight to like the really, I think at the time, pretty much like the mightiest armies of the world. It took the fight to a bunch of untrained, crazy fucking like Scottish guys. I guess they got trained pretty quick. But they knew, like, they didn't have the horses, they didn't have the cavalry, they didn't have, like, the weapons. So they had to, like, be smarter. So they had to, like, outthink him at every turn. That's
what I was saying. Wallace was pretty fucking clever. in the way he went at it. Evidently, he was well educated too. As well educated as
All
you
right,
can be.
that's going to be like a thing, a top 5 or one of those little, countdown, like those little things you guys do, is like great like tacticians, like right throughout history. Like you're going to war, like who would you have and put the different tacticians up against each other?
I'd be interested.
Just based on strategy, not like what weapons and shit they're going to use, because of course Patton would like roll over anyone, right?
Well,
But
but I don't know enough about it to contribute. I'd be curious about it, though. I'd listen to that.
I would have to put some research and thought into that one myself. Because on one hand, I don't know who was actually involved in it, but Hitler was fairly clever in the beginning. I mean, he fucking rolled over Europe without resistance to speak of at all.
oh yeah, like you could like it doesn't have to be like good guys too, right? Like so you would have like Genghis Khan, Hitler, Sun Wu. He did like the famous book like The Art of War, right? Like William Wallace, like maybe like Henry VIII or something, like like this Patton, like Rummel, like I don't know, like just like whoever Schwarzkopf, like who I don't know, just different tactician guys who've had success throughout history, right? It obviously has to be someone who's had some sort of success, or they wouldn't make the list, right? And like I don't like Churchill. I don't know. I get to see like a lot of different guys, put them all up on there, but you couldn't base it on their weapons or their armies. You'd have to base it like straight up on like their tactical planning, the victories they had won and stuff. Like basically, if they were like alive today and were to play like a game of chess with each other or something, who the fuck's gonna win? Who's the ultimate competition?
I maintain to this day that had Hitler not decided to invade Russia, this world would look a lot different. I honestly believe that.
Can you hear that reveille?
No.
7 o'clock.
We're off air.
Mine says we're on air. I'm running it, right? Are we off air?
I don't know. Mine didn't. Mine says.
No, we're live. We're live.
I mean,
Yeah, I
they
can
just
hear it
can't
from.
me.
I can hear the. What do you call it? Reveille from the base here.
That would be an interesting thing to do, though. Maybe we'll look at that next week. There was a whole bunch of shit that went on in World War II that you don't hear about in schools here.
Well, before Adolf attacked Russia, right? That like right before he fucking attacked him, I think, like literally right before, they signed a non-aggression pact in 1939.
You talking about or you talking about Russia?
Russia and Germany signed a non-aggression pact in 1939.
But Germany also signed it with like Poland and all those other countries they wailed on, right?
What's that?
I think Germany signed those same kind of agreements with all the countries that it kicked the shit out of.
Oh no, they didn't. No, not Britain or Poland, because they were already under reparations from World War One.
Oh.
And so they were still like, that's why Germany was so. That's how the main reason why Hitler got the power is because Germany was paying so heavily reparations to all the countries they fucked with in World War One. It was still killing them like 20 years later. And they were so poor and people were starving and all that. And Hitler promised a better life by basically, like, he promised it basically, like, a lot of it through, like, really kind of forceful negotiation. he didn't really like, he wasn't saying shit like, oh, we're going to go bomb them or start war. But he was saying like, we're going to get this fixed. I promise you, I'm going to fix this. We're not going to have these heavy burdens on us anymore. He was saying shit like that, and got the people all fired up about it. Oh yeah, like we're going to have more money now, and we're going to have jobs again and stuff. And he the fifth party. People, oh, I want a third party. Well, the fifth fucking party got elected, and that's what you got was the Nazis. And like a long shot, it would have been like hitting four home runs in the same game. It was just like such a long shot.
In other words, like there was a few more probably appealing options, but then they all kind of stalemated each other somehow, and then the fifth guy just walked in or something.
Yep, and if there literally would have been like just two parties, and then like the Nazi party was like the independent party that tried to run, they never would have got elected. But because there was four other parties other than them, and like it spread the vote too thin, and he was just so charismatic that he won the people over. He really was loved by the German people, like he really was. I don't care what anyone says. You watch the old fucking footage, he has fucking 100,000 people, like every inch of that street is fucking packed, and those people aren't like the Koreans who are cheering because they have guns pointed at them. They're cheering because they want a brighter future for their country, and because they really were being fucked with. And that's why after World War II, we did not reprimand them near the way we did in World War I, not even fucking close, because we were afraid that 20 years later they were going to get pissed and do it all again. So after World War II, they didn't near the reparations and shit, and that we had them pay in World War I. World War I was like pretty much, I think everyone agrees that the reparations that were put upon them were kind of like unachievable and kind of ridiculous. I mean, like there literally was people starving in Germany. There really was. Like mass starvation. Like a bad winter would come and thousands, hundreds of thousands of fucking people would die. Shit, it was that bad.
Damn, I keep dropping fucking out of here and missing everything.
I was just talking about Hitler, how Hitler really escaped to South America, and then he's the one who really had Kennedy assassinated for revenge in World War II from Venezuela. But
I suppose it's entirely possible. I don't know about the assassination part, but
I just threw that in there out of fucking left field. I guarantee if I search it, I can find someone else that probably has a video saying the same thing.
If you look from the German population's viewpoint, Hitler actually did what he said he was going to do for the first 39 and 40. The people were working.
Well, what he did is he really did try heavy negotiations, actually, and to get those reparations and shit taken off, right? Like he really did. And there was and he was he actually has famous speeches and where he really wants peace. He's I don't want to do this. I don't want to fucking go to war. I don't want to fucking fight you, but we're not going to pay this shit. And Britain's no, you're going to pay this shit. And Poland's no, you're going to pay this shit. And then then he's all right, fuck you, we're doing it, let's box. And he went to war and got his ass kicked, and then escaped to Venezuela. So.
Yep, I still maintain if he had not invaded Russia, this world would look different.
I don't know. We were too buddy with fucking Britain, dude. I don't think. I know Russia fucking I know they shed a lot of blood, right? But with the invention of the fucking bomb, even if Russia never would have entered the war, yeah, it might have taken a couple years longer. We still would have won. I think. I think it would have been the end result because of the fucking bomb, dude. We dropped 2 on Japan. Dude, we dropped 2 on Japan. You don't think that if Germany was still going strong because Russia wasn't in the fight, we wouldn't have gone right straight there too and dropped fucking 2 or 3 or 4 more? I think
on the cusp of having it too.
I know, but we beat them, dude. Like we beat them to it. From what I hear, dude, like we had already won the war. Like we did not have to drop the bomb in Japan. Okay, we basically dropped it for two reasons. One, for a fucking test. Okay, and number two, just so it didn't go on 2 years longer. Because yeah, it would have taken, like they said, 2 years longer if we wouldn't have dropped the bomb, right? And we were like, oh, we want to save casualties. Da da da. Let's just get this shit over with. We're done, tired of fighting, right? And
Yeah, I think the estimate was like 1 million casualties to invade Japan.
yeah, but you know, like, but we still would have won. Like, we still would have, you know, like they said it would have taken 2 years longer if we wouldn't have dropped the bombs, the war of Japan. And but they were already so defeated and had like they couldn't get coal. We had cut off all their coal lines by the time we dropped the bomb. We had cut off all their fucking oil production by the time we dropped. Like, they were all but already done, dude. They really were. And but they still had the attitude of like, we're not going to surrender. Fuck you. And so we're like, all right, let's go teach you a lesson. And we want you to submit, right? So we made them tap out. And I honestly believe we would have done it even worse to fucking Germany, because even though what Japan was doing to us with kamikazes and shit like that, I think once we saw like the death camps and saw that, like there was once that word got out, because that word really wasn't out at the beginning of the war, from my understanding, but like halfway through the war, that's when the word got out that what they were actually doing. Right, like that's when some of the evidence first started coming out and the word was spreading. That's when we got like really fucking pissed at these guys, like really like, and that's when we stopped taking prisoners, German prisoners, and shit like that. And I've heard stories like where we just literally stopped taking German prisoners. We were just shooting all of them.
Hell, Japan at the end, they were teaching their civilian population, all the women and kids, to fight with pointy sticks. Just preparing for an invasion.
Yeah, teaching them how to make slingshots and shit.
It may not have been smart, but you got to give them credit for being fucking dedicated. And then
I think Japan really was about that death before dishonor thing, but the nuclear bomb was like you're not even going to have fucking honor, dude. You're gonna be fucking just, you know, Krispy Kreme.
The funny part about it is, or it's not really funny, it's just how quickly their attitude changed once they surrendered. I mean, there wasn't huge amounts of resentment, although if it happened here, there would have been.
Do you know why? Because we rebuilt that country in a way that we've never rebuilt a country. Like, a country has never been rebuilt before in the way Japan was. We dumped, and this is like back in the fucking late 40s, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars for like rebuilding Japan, which would have been like billions and billions of dollars today. Like, we dumped so much money rebuilding Japan, and we were going over there assisting them, giving them food, water, and we were trying our best. Like, we really were. We gave them a shitload of infrastructure and support. We were sending oil and gas and coal, and we got them back on their fucking feet. And we helped them with the electronics revolution. We really did. We helped spur that in Japan, and helped spur their entire automotive industry. We rebuilt Mitsubishi's factory, dude. We had fucking destroyed the factory. They made zeros in it, shit. Like, completely leveled that fucker. And like, we rebuilt that whole factory. We sent over a bunch of fucking tooling. I remember reading a thing about a whole bunch of what was it? Like, was it Pittsburgh fucking Mills, or I think it was Pittsburgh Mills went over there, and Pittsburgh was like shitty pissed at him because, like, I think one of the owner's sons died or something in the war fighting in the Pacific, and he didn't want his mills to go to Mitsubishi, and he was like, and like that was like a thing. The government was like, well, you don't have a decision because, like, we already own it, and like, we have a contract with you, but that was like an actual thing. Like, Pittsburgh didn't want its mills going to Japan, but we sent them anyway, and you know, like, we really fucking rebuilt that country. We really did. That's why they don't. That's why there was no real hostilities, because we literally made every fucking effort to help them, like, and not just with like food and water. Like, we were building houses and apartments, and like we were, you know, really helping these guys out, right?
Whoa, all right. I've been asleep for a while here. Sorry to leave you hanging there.
Tony just fell out. I was just rambling about Japan.
I am winding down. So you said Tony just chopped out? I thought
Yeah,
he dropped. Going for an hour or something. Okay, so I don't know. Do we like to do stuff like look at the front page of gun channels? See what's going on over there. There it is. I've been kind of showing some of the sped up drawings that I've been working on as part of the 2A history, and as also part of just playing around with gun channels. And I'll be posting the videos and stuff of those fast forward kind of things from some of my projects. We have Angelina hosting a show last night. That was another all night. I'd say it's a pretty epic one. I don't know if it's worth listening to again, but interesting show last night. People talking about that. It looks like the news about Trump being able to pick a Supreme Court. We talked about that earlier. You had a show and tell with Dave yesterday. That was a pretty good one too. I was in Matt's chat, but I had the volume down. I was watching your chat, and yeah, you gave people some interesting advice on saving money on eBay using those eBay bucks. I guess I didn't realize you had to sign up for them. I guess as a seller, they just happened. So I guess you can sign up for this promotional thing where every dollar you spend on eBay, they give you some amount of a kind of cash back type of thing. Not real money, but credit. And there's every promotions once in a while where you'll get more eBay bucks than normal.
It's always 1% on any purchase, and then they have promotions where it might be 6%, 8%, 10%, even 15%. I've seen this like too.
And if you're about to buy something anyway, or if that makes a decision, then you spend that money. Then you spend the same amount of money. You spend less money because you're getting that discount. So less money out of your pocket. The person who is selling the thing gets the full amount of money, and eBay takes the bite. They supply the missing money there, and that's where you were saying the double. You get a little bit extra money back, or you pay a little bit less. And eBay is paying something 2A related. They're paying somebody who's 2A related, when a lot of times they're anti-2A.
Exactly. So it's like sticking it to the man. And then you throw PayPal in there too with the PayPal card, and you get 1% back on that. And sometimes they run promotions where it's 2 or 3%, and it's just like a debit card, but you just run it as credit, and then you get 1% cash back on everything. And so then you get another 1% cash back there. That's coming out of PayPal's pocket. So now you're kind of sticking it to PayPal, and for pro 2A stuff.
And like in a perfect storm, you get 15% off of one, maybe 5% off the other, and really be potentially.
Well, what I showed people last night was basically how to get 29% off a bunch of stuff. Like I was showing people $248 or whatever Trigicon MROs, $80 SIG Romeo 5s. Like a lot of people want to know how sometimes I get my stuff so cheap when I post a SIG red dot site, and I'm like, I paid $88 for this, and they're like, dude, you buy that used? I'm like, no, brand new, dude. And they're, they can't believe it. So I basically showed people how I do that. I wait for these certain deals to come up. So right now there's a 20% off coupon. There's an 8% back on eBay bucks, and then another 1% on PayPal. And, and all that adds up. I mean, it really does.
Oh, let's see if it works now. Probably not.
No, you're
We hear you. I don't know if everybody else gets these announcements when people sign in, or join gun channels, but we have a pretty steady membership. So thanks to the new people that are joining. DT posted Matt's chat. It was a good one. We talked about, well, they talked about guns a lot and their theories on guns, which are sometimes interesting to listen to. And then they talked about, I think, bug out vehicles or something. It wasn't really my thing. I gave my votes to Night Strike for a portion of it. I've been playing with the puppy. And then I had a phone call during their show yesterday, so I missed a good chunk of Matt's chat. So might be worth listening to. It was 3 hours long. It was pretty long. That's Dead Horse letting people know he's going to spend your money for you.
How the hell can anybody talk for 3 fucking hours?
There was quite a few people in there. Matt didn't have to go to work today or something, so he had extra time. And I think it's more of a, Matt usually runs his chat to whatever time of night it is, because he pretty much runs it until he needs to go to bed because he gets up so early. Like, you know, he really doesn't run it late. So I think it was just a treat to have him running it late in the middle of the week.
I was just making a joke.
Oh, well, I'm too tired to understand. Clover had a chat. I did not get to see that one, I don't think, or did I? Oh, that was the one about games and stuff. And I just showed the video before I was watching that one and made another cartoon for Clover for GunTube also. So I put a GunTube logo behind it, just playing around. Knives' chat. I know that Tina had posted a bunch of interesting stuff. Here we go. ATF flips on bump stock ban. Some gun rights groups are mad. So what's up with that? Did we talk about that already today?
No.
I know that the thing ended yesterday, but did they make some kind of a thing?
I didn't hear they did.
For nearly a decade, on precisely 10 different occasions, the BATF concluded that so-called bump stocks and whatever are legal. Bump stocks, blah, blah, blah. Then came October, blah, blah, blah. Police said the shooter possessed within weeks, the ATF abruptly reversed all those prior decisions with an endorsement from Trump and Jeff Sessions. 2 guns rights groups today filed documents. Okay, so this is talking about the 900 and something page, what do you call, like, what is it called? Filed documents. Is that called an injunction? I don't know. But whatever. They filed a thing with, I saw that somewhere, 900 and something pages. And it looks like that's the Firearms Policy Coalition and the Firearms Policy Foundation. FPF and the FPC did that. Likely to prove embarrassing to the ATF. It lays out a convincing argument. Oh, I know what this is. Have you seen, do you guys follow Firearms Policy, FPC, on Instagram?
I don't on Instagram, but I think they email me updates.
Okay, so they had been doing something in collaboration with Kraut, that guy that was running for NRA. He's a lawyer, and when he's not running for NRA, whatever, you know, he's a lawyer and he's a 2A lawyer. And they had done something, and I remember them talking about it in their Instagram, and that's what they're talking about here as well. So those are 2 organizations. That must be what Firearms Policy Foundation is Kraut. And those 2 together laid out the what I saw on Instagram was that they did something to conclusively show that bump stock is not a rate firing device, or, you know, they somehow clarified the situation and then gave it lots of probably corroborating data or whatever that would be called, you know, to, I guess, legally dot all the I's and
To legally define it, right? Because they used the ATF's own testimony against them.
Hopefully, yeah. It looks like they did an effort to stifle the ATF's ability to just run rampant, which is awesome. That's freaking awesome. Firearms Policy is good people, and it looks like Kraut is doing something from the East Coast that we don't hear enough about out here, I guess. It's too bad he shacked up with that guy who, you know, whatever. So we'll get past that, and we'll see some of these people use their influence and audience to possibly get the Gun Rights Policy Conference up out of the shadows and into the light, the spotlight. FPC certainly knows the Firearms Policy Coalition. I mean the Gun Rights Policy Conference. So it'd be neat to see that Kraut guy show up at that and all the cameras that he can bring with him. Tony is seriously having some issues over there. All right, so thanks, Tina, for posting that. I did not get a chance to look at it, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to dig in, because I was saving it. Well, not saving it. I had other things to do, but I knew I'd be looking at it in this show, so thanks for that. And this is where I saw the thing about the 920 thing, so thank you for that as well. I posted the 2A history thing yet. So I posted that playing card deck that has the firearms inventors in it. The idea is that I'll go to bed after the early watch and wake up later on in the afternoon and do some things that I got to do to try to keep afloat. And then I will do some art and then do the fast forward of that art and then post it and do sort of a daily blog type of thing where people that are only interested in the entertainment can watch a little cartoon get invented in front of them, and the people that are interested in the nuts and bolts of what we're doing on that card can join potentially, hopefully, for the creation of the card. It usually takes about an hour or so to fiddle with them, and like today when I was doing that guy, something Hunt, whatever it is, me and Dano were in there chatting. Were you in there? Walter Hunt? Anyway, he invented the volcanic, and we were talking about that. And you know, the volcanic spreads from Smith and Wesson through Winchester, and it's in the precursor to the lever actions. And Hunt, in addition to creating the lever action, you could say, also created the safety pin and something else. I forget, like it wasn't the curling iron, but it was something else. So all the kind of things that I think are interesting about this project. You know, somebody might think, oh, a safety pin, the symbol for being a big wimp, and you know, somebody else is to blame, and somebody else's rights are the reason there's problems in the world. And yeah, that same safety pin that you're using as a symbol is also invented by a guy who created the lever action, which is the beginning of all the repeat firearms out there. Rick had his show last night. I did not see that. Anybody watch Rick's show yesterday? I think Patriot won, if I was told correctly.
Shit, no, I forgot about it.
Let's see. Then we have one here from Knives. Bill would bar use of federal money for state gun registrations. Okay, I like that. So that's Mississippi. Way to go. Create laws like that might seem unnecessary, so I can't say I'm 100% in favor of making unnecessary laws because I'm not for bureaucracy, but I understand the concept. You create laws like this, and it's a barrier. There's something that has to be accomplished before they can send a bunch of kids in to yell and exploit the emotions of these kids, and then manipulate policy based on like how awkward they can make it for a few people who are, you know, don't have any real conviction of what their job is supposed to be, right? So if you put in some things like this, they'd have to get rid of this bill, you know, with whatever coercion they could do, then screw with our rights. So I think that's a good plan. What about you guys?
Well, that's
Kind of like what you.
this county thing here.
Yeah.
You know, it really has no weight of law. It's a statement. But it's, to me, it's a very important statement. You know, so yeah, I'm in favor of anything that throws up a roadblock to anti-gunners. I wish we could just get a group of Supreme Court justices that understand the concept of English language and read the damn thing.
Definition is. So we got Patriot posting that same thing about the 923-page opposition to the ATF's illegal bump stock ban proposal demanding a hearing. So that's awesome. I need to know more about that. Maybe there's somebody that summarized it I know the guy from FPC does a morning podcast, like Coffee with Craig, and maybe he talked about it on there since he is FPC's, marketing, whatever you call, like, guy that goes out and talks to the media. Is the media for them. The Constitution ought to be the standard of construction for the laws, and that whenever there is evident opposition, the laws ought to give place to the Constitution. What that means. Whenever there's opposition, the laws should bend the Constitution, I guess. Knives had a chat, and a couple of people out there occasionally will go over to this channel, one of the channels on Gun Channels. Somebody was noting that the other day too. One of the channels on Gun Channels, right? But if you go up here and you get this random list of all the different channels that are creating content on a regular basis, you got Matt Never Enough Ammo with 79,000 views. So 79,000 people have logged into Gun Channels and then headed over to Matt's channel to watch his videos. Something like 80,000 people over the last few years. You got Ghost, newer on the scene, but he's already up to 3,800, right? Got Show and Tell, Dead Horse.
Look at where the early watch is at.
Early watch, 92,000, and I didn't screw with these. I didn't go in there and put like 30,000 to start or nothing. This happened, right? You guys didn't even start this thing as far back as some of these. Yeah, 92,000. All right, and now let's scroll up and look at Knives. 183. Keep in mind, I have not screwed with any of these numbers. 183,000 people have clicked on this dude's thing, and I can tell you we haven't sold 16 of them stickers. Angelina made up a bunch of stickers. I've got them over on the store for 25 bucks. If you click on Knives thing, and I'm not suggesting anyone has to do this or anything, but a couple people have. But the guy puts in a ton of effort, 16 hours a day at least. You can click on this, and the $25 that you give to me, I immediately throw $20 on PayPal over to Mr. Knives. So thanks for the people that do that occasionally, to give him a little financial thank you. But anyway, he'll be doing his thing later on today. And I think I lost the front page completely now. So I think we were at Knives launching yesterday, so that would have been at the end of this show. Or wait, we didn't do a show yesterday. I got the dog yesterday. Have we even talked about the damn dog? Where? So Russ has a ton of dogs, and I went over there and got him all distracted and grabbed this one. He doesn't even know it's missing, probably. She's doesn't quite listen to me yet, so she's getting pretty good though. But she's a white German Shepherd looking dog that's all white, and she's 1 year old ish. I guess she's was found in the street kind of thing, so no way to know, but judging from whatever people that know what they're looking at, about a year old. So that was one of the reasons we didn't have a show yesterday, and I'm sure you'll see pictures of her. Matches the van, so I'll probably take her with me when I go places.
He was telling me about the dog a couple of days ago. That's a blue-eyed white dog, right?
Yep, exactly.
Sounds pretty.
Uh-huh. Well, if you like fuzzy dogs that are like a Snow White teddy bear and are fluffy and like just basically sit around being quiet and occasionally want to go outside and then do their business outside and then come back in and just sit quietly and are nice, then I guess you'd like this dog. I've never had a girl dog. I've only been around girl dogs. I mean, we had girl dogs when I was a little kid, but I personally have only ever had boy dogs. So I have a ton of dog belly now. Crazy amount of dog belly. No business in the way of rubbing dog belly anymore. She seems to like it, so I think we'll get along all right. I'm rambling at this point. Do we have anything else to do? Did you get any emails from Early Watch Nation out there? Tony's still here? He's probably gone again. I'm guessing you didn't get any emails from Early Watch Nation, Dead Horse?
Nope, I didn't.
All right. All right. Well, we'll wait for Tony to get back. Make sure there ain't something.
He's probably checking right now on his other screen. He's probably looking at the.
That could be. I'm gonna go check myguncalendars.com real quick. Make sure there's nothing. Yesterday was Prince. We didn't talk about that. So, shitty Brady bill happened, right? And they're like, "Hey, it's no big deal. It's just a little infringement. Why don't we just do a background check on everybody?" And that's going to take some time for the sheriffs to do that. So why don't we give them a few days? It's no big deal. You're not mad, right? So you don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Just go ahead and have this background check. Well, Sheriff Mack here in Arizona and some other sheriff up in Montana said no to the federal government, who burdened the sheriffs, the local law enforcement, with this outrageous infringement. And they took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they said, yeah, you're right, the Brady Law is an unconstitutional infringement. So instead of that being the narrative is the Brady Bill turned into Nix, and it's no big deal. It's just the natural order of things. I think that spans more scrutiny. It happened in my lifetime, and I don't remember it. But from my little bit of effort looking, researching it, seems to me like federal government infringed unconstitutionally. They were called on it by two sheriffs, and instead of doing anything else, they just created the FBI stupid background check bullshit. And now the FBI is somehow, no big deal. The FBI is just going to be part of this ATF thing because we don't have enough giant bureaucracy and law enforcement regulating and persecuting, this area of commerce. Anyway, that was yesterday, 1997. So let's not forget the people who said F you to the federal government and stopped an unconstitutional infringement. And every time people go, blah, 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 what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Sheriff Mack said, I'm going to do it. And he did it. And some other guy helped him. And we don't have a Brady waiting period as a federal thing. Thanks.
I hate to admit this, but back in the day, that didn't seem like that big of a deal because we already had it here.
Yeah, exactly. It's 97, and they had the population centers where you've already had to deal with it. So when they made it go national, what echo was there? Who was there to make a voice to have it echo? So thank goodness for Sheriff Mack saying no, that this is a burden. I don't think he even, I guess I shouldn't say that. Charles Heller had him on a couple of times to interview him, and he actually is pro 2A. So, but anyway, I'm glad that he did it because, like you said, back then, there was no internet for us to go, hey, look what's happening in this, let people know in the states that we're under the background check.
I have 3 regrets in my life. One is not choosing to stay home with one of my kids instead of going to work at one point. 2 is that I wasn't more active in the Second Amendment back in the day. I was way too fucking indifferent back then.
We're hearing whatever video you got. Dead horse, we're hearing that video. Okay.
What's that?
We heard
whatever the hell he was playing.
Oh shit! Sorry.
Yeah, I regret the fact that I was kind of wishy-washy on the 2A shit back in the day.
Dude, it was hard. And here's the other thing. That's another interesting thing you brought up. I'm not trying to give anybody a pass because I'm as much responsible as anybody else. I was voting at times when some of this shit happened. Shit. Okay, I just missed the 86. I can't push myself because I wasn't voting yet for the 86. But I was pretty damn close. But none of us were really all that aware, I don't think. And it's easy to blame it because we didn't have the internet or whatever. The internet isn't the savior of everything. What I'm discovering from this 2A history research is that there's been waves and there's been shifting perspective on the Second Amendment. It hasn't always, we perceive it as always having been an individual right to possess firearms, but there was never a challenge to an individual right to own firearms. So the Second Amendment never needed to defend the challenge. If there is no challenge, there is no that doesn't exist. So no one had ever even thought about suggesting that it wasn't a natural or an individual right. It was always wondering, is it, what's the gun or whatever. So there was these other things, and then it was, where do we hunt, and like, should there be land set aside to hunt, or do we worry about the critters on these wildlife lands? There was other things going on besides self-protection. So when some of these laws get passed and in our lifetimes, we were all worried about gun safety, because that's unfortunately what the industry was looking at back then. For whatever reason, the industry thought that was a good campaign to do. So we were being told to go to hunter safety classes when we should have been going to Second Amendment awareness vigilance.
Back on the 86 thing, what people today don't realize is that fully automatics back then were not on the radar. The AR back then, you could get one from Colt, and it was still suffering under the illusion from the first ones in Vietnam that they didn't work worth shit. So, nobody fucking cared because it wasn't something anybody was using. Granted, there was a small percentage of people that did, but by and large, machine guns were going under the radar. And that's largely how that went through, because we just didn't give a fuck. And I'm sitting here as one of them that did that. I regret it, but I didn't care. I wasn't ever going to have a fucking machine gun. What the hell did I care? I went way, way farther down the old I'm absolutely opposed to gun control rabbit hole. I'm opposed to gun control on anything today. If you ain't breaking the law, you should be able to have any fucking thing you want. But that's the fucking key to it right there. I mean, if you ain't breaking the law, you ain't hurt nobody, what the fuck? And even today, I would not own a machine gun. I have absolutely no reason. I have no desire. Part of it's from being broke most of my life. I wouldn't expel ammo that way. On a side note, I did finally surpass having more than 10,000 rounds of 22 long rifle. 22. I think I got 1,500 short, so. Woo!
See, the part that gets me when we play into that, when we're like, when you said that, I don't want a machine gun. You don't want a machine gun that exists today necessarily because of all the, like you said, cost of ammo and cost of the machine gun. So let's say that the NFA goes away. So tomorrow people can build machine guns. Well, some people are going to build M16s, and some people are going to build replicas of Stens and MG44s and all this other stuff, right? And some people are going to build mod deuces, but some people are going to build mod deuces that shoot 22 short or 22 long rifle. And then somebody's going to figure out that recreational machine gun shooting is fun as shit, and the one thing that's limiting it is the ammunition. And then we're going to see like something that shoots a BB or something that's super inexpensive and that can be reloaded the same way a PKM belt can be charged. So some sort of a hand crank, like a old sausage mill, where you just go blah, 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 and you're creating ammo just as fast as you can shoot it, and it's as fun that your kid's going to want to sit there creating ammo as you shoot it. So that's the development that doesn't happen because of all these infringements. So let's not look at what exists today that because of the costs and shit we can't obtain. What's going to happen tomorrow without that law? So tomorrow without that law, there's no stupid ass law on the length of barrel. So right away, if you don't want full auto, because like you just said, 45 ACP costs a lot, yeah, no problem. But you want a short barreled Tommy gun. You don't want some stupid long one. And because they're selling the shit out of Tommy guns, they're going down in price. Now, a full auto one costs $100 more than the $300 short barrel rifle one, but who cares? And that doesn't affect the price of a World War II one. If anything, that World War II one that cost $30,000 today is going to cost $40,000, because now everybody who wants one has a full auto modern one. And who the hell wants that when there's only so many of those World War II ones? Now it's a thing, and there's machine gun shoots, and people are all into like old recreations of, you know, the gangster era or World War II recreations or whatever. And, you know, those old ones are going to still be worth tons, but the new ones are going to drop and be $100 more than the, you know, whatever the cost of the full auto parts are.
You're getting no argument from me there. Just because I don't want one doesn't mean I don't want to see other people be able to make and have them. I'm quite in favor of that. And a side note, I do want a Gatling gun. And I want that in 4570. I don't give a shit about the cost of ammo for that. But that's just one of my little quirks of liking old guns.
Luckily, that ain't nothing. That's just a gun, so you can get one of them today. I kind of I want a hopper-fed Gatling gun that shoots 22 long rifle. So it's just a hopper. You dump your bulk box in, and then you just start cranking the crank.
While I have plenty of 22 ammo, I want to keep it that way. So now if I wanted 4570.
But it's here because then you could shoot it at stuff and like eat it away like a little tree or something. I guess you could do the same with 4570. It would just happen a lot faster.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to crank it, but have a turn.
One time we were at SHOT one year, and they had a Colt had theirs one. They must have made a new one or something, and I think they said it cost like $30,000 or $60,000. And you could go up there if you wanted to stand in line and crank it. So I was walking by, and they didn't have a line that was that long, so I went over there and cranked on it. It was kind of neat.
I don't know, man. I've always had kind of a thing for it. But, you know, it's one of those pipe dream things. I'll never have the money to have one, so it's no biggie. But as far as fully automatic weapons go, man, I think you should be able to buy, make, sell, whatever the fuck you want to. I believe that the Second Amendment should be interpreted as it's written, with no fucking limitations, with the one proviso of obeying the law. You know?
Now, when you said that, something made me think that, again, like I believe that a lot of the mechanical, or whatever you call it, the industrial revolution has a lot to do with firearms because, I don't know, they were small enough. We didn't have engines yet, so it's not like they could, you know, make a better engine because they hadn't been invented yet. So guns were the kind of thing that everybody had, or there was enough of to, you know, keep business going. And they were able to, I guess, master interchangeable parts or whatever. Anyway, so there was a lot of innovation and stuff. And because of that, we have all kinds of interesting things in the world because of that, you know, whatever surge in technology or whatever. So because of this stifling, is that a potential reason to remove some of these stifling firearms laws? Because the type of innovation that'll be created as people try to make new guns or strive to get, you know, better performance out of a thing, and then oops, we found a new material, or we figure out a new way to make these two metals work together that we can apply to all kinds of things that have nothing to do with firearms, just like what happened as they were developing firearms in the first place.
I don't think so, because they're still developing them today. I mean, for military purposes.
Yeah, I hear you, but I'm saying they're stifled because of the stupid laws. It's not like guys like there can't be an Apple computer of guns. Like Browning isn't happening probably as often as it could because there's no, you know, why would he? Because he could go do something else, and you know, there's laws in the way of guns.
Yeah, you got a point there, because there's not really much in the way of people moving to something other than an AR. As far as modern guns go.
Yeah, they make other guns look like an AR. That's the extent of developing other guns, right?
Right, and that really irks me. You know, fucking Ruger rifle that's got a fucking collapsible stock or skeletonized stock and all this, and they label it precision and just make it fucking ugly as possible and sell it. No, thank you.
Oh, on the I just noticed on the gun channel side, they're talking about full auto BB guns I bought some full auto BB guns years ago for doing YouTube videos. They run off of CO2 and they look like some kind of stupid gun, like I don't know, some kind of Europe sub gun. And you can get them that look cooler. You can get them to look like Uzis. They just cost more. Anyway, they're CO2, and I don't think there's any battery in there. Anyway, they're full auto. You just load them up with BBs and pull the trigger, and a stream of BBs come out basically until your CO2 runs out. Actually, I think it holds 2 CO2s, so you get a little bit. It's fun. It doesn't run out immediately. And I don't remember it cost. I think they were more like $80. I don't think they were that much. I think the cool looking ones cost 200. I don't know if they're restricted anywhere.
I was never a fan of CO2 guns until I bought a couple of handguns. God damn, they worked a lot better than I remembered from back when I was a kid.
I liked pump better too, because you never run out, right? But yeah, I mean, I had a CO2 revolver, I guess, and it wasn't bad. I mean, it really lasted quite a while. As long as if they gave you like a 5-pack of CO2s, it's almost not even worth it. But when they give you that big brick of CO2s, I mean, you're shooting a long time out of that giant brick of CO2s.
I've had mine for, God, 2 years, and I still got 2/3 of it left. I mean, I don't grab the guns very much, but they'll shoot 100+ times on a CO2 cartridge easily, and I know back in the day they wouldn't. I think the rifles back in the day might shoot 15 or 20 times before they start losing juice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just killed a mouse with this little Crossman I got just a couple of days ago.
Well, and when you say that and thinking about them full auto ones, that's the last time I had anything, or the most recent CO2 gun I've had, because the other ones were from when I was a little kid. And yeah, I was surprised. I think I put it away without, having shot it all. And I went back and picked it up a long time later, probably months or something, maybe. I don't remember, but it was surprising. And I picked it up, and it wasn't shooting BBs out of it in full auto or nothing, but there was still pressure in there. It was like toop toop toop.
Yeah.
So,
this Crossman, I probably haven't put a cartridge in it for 6 months, and it's still up. I mean, I'm not shooting it much. If I see a mouse running around begging for death, I'll grab it.
Pink is saying he's seen a full. I think he's saying he's seen a full auto BB gun that looks like an M1919. That would be cool as shit. And he's saying hook up an air compressor to it. That'd be freaking neat. Instead of a power drill, an air drill or something, have a BB gun.
Well, that's what they do at the fairs with a lot of their BB guns. They just have a constant air compressor hooked to them and a hopper, and it even refeeds the same BBs.
That's true.
Because they're using steel like back into the same gun, right?
What do they just feed it up the hose, huh? Because I don't remember.
It goes in a little hopper in the back, and then literally goes into a little tube and right back up into the gun again.
Oh no,
Right.
I bought this Crossman and a Numerex at the same time, and the Numerex sucks. It's got absolute god-awful trigger on it. But the Crossman's really good. And it's accurate as all get out, too. Considering it's not rifled, it surprised me. But, if you want to practice shooting in your house at home, those things work pretty well. I think it cost me $25, maybe 30.
Patriot's asking me to ask you if Tony got the scenario question in email.
Well, yeah, I replied to it, man. But I'm glad you reminded me. I can't hardly bring up my email because I'll get booted right out of here. But basically what Patriot was asking was if you were in a public place and a crowd of demonstrators started taunting you, maybe up to the point of pushing you, and you're there with your family, at what point does it become self-defense?
With your family? Then the best thing you do is get out of there. You can't shoot a crowd. There's no win there.
Yeah, and my answer was basically following Illinois state law because each state's going to be different in how you can respond. Illinois lets you defend yourself or someone else if you honestly believe they're in imminent danger of death or serious bodily harm.
Well, okay, but then if you're in literally a crowd, a mob, who are you going to defend yourself with? The first person and then the second person, and then how many rounds do you have? If each round was even effective, the 13th person, and then what? You just got 13 people's worth of friends pissed at you. There's no win with the firearm out of a mob.
Maybe I think by the third person, the rest of them are going to disperse.
In a mob? No. In a crowd of people, yes. In a couple of people, definitely. But in a mob, no. I mean,
well, I think he was talking like Sarah Sanders in that restaurant when people, they ask her to leave if you was in a situation where a group of people were harassing you. I don't think he necessarily meant a mob.
Oh, okay. Then I misunderstood.
No, I wouldn't draw my gun with a mob of people because several people is enough to take the damn thing away from you no matter how good you are with it.
Exactly. I'd probably start catching people on fire.
But, what would I do? I don't know. I'd have to weigh the situation. Is it safer for me to get the fuck out of there or to actually defend? Tough one. I mean, legally, if I'm genuinely in fear of my life and disparity of numbers is one force involved in that, I can defend myself or someone else, my family, other people. If I come across people being assaulted like that, would I? I don't think so. Not someone else. I think there's way too much potential for litigation on that one. But I don't know. All my training has been centered around me protecting other people because I was trained as an officer for the federal government, and my duty was to protect the people in that facility, not just myself. So it's hard to say. I guess I'm being kind of wishy-washy, but that's just the nature of the question, I think.
Relativity was talking about this MP40 looking full auto BB gun. Oh, is that airsoft or is it a BB gun? Either way, if it's the BB gun, I've seen somebody do a video of it somewhere. Like somebody was showing somebody the video and I looked at it and it seemed like it was pretty solid and cool.
The only thing I can remotely remember was Crossman put out one, I think it was Pump Up, that looked like an AR. I've heard of the full autos, but I don't think I've ever seen one around here.
Well, if we got dead air, I'm gonna fucking plug the new Indiegogo campaign. So got a campaign going for the another 2A deck of cards. Did it with playing cards this time, and didn't get a lot of feedback or response at all from the 2A advocates. And doing the math, getting cards made in orders under 1,000. And doing the math based off of past shipping and knowledge of numbers and stuff. I've got to price them at $25, so it's going to be tricky. It's not, or the firearms inventors is probably going to be more interesting to people than the 2A advocates one. But I don't think this is going to be a jumping off the shelf seller. At this point, we sold 2 decks, but we need to get at least 50 to break even. So hopefully we'll get to at least 50. But unfortunately, we're not getting them made in massive numbers. Can't get them made in the United States, and it ends up costing money to get them made. So going to see what people think of this one. Ideally, we get it shared, and if we can sell 1,000 decks, that's the numbers we need to get to in order to have them made in the USA. So that is one of the stretch goals. They have 22 days to do it. I don't need to. I just want to make it 40 days or something and go on forever. I figure if people are interested in this, and they'll be interested. But hoping to get people to share the project on the various platforms out there, get as many people aware of it as possible, and we'll see if it's something people are interested in. The $25 is again priced at assuming that the decks aren't going to sell like hotcakes, and in order to not lose money on them. If for some reason, or hopefully they will, catch on, people think it's a good idea, there'll be a lot of extra income at the end if it does end up, well, not a lot, but there'll be extra income at the end if it does get up to 1,000 decks, in which case we'll use that scratch for the 2A activist deck, which I won't make a ton of, but we'll at least be able to make some of those for the Gun Rights Policy Conference coming up at the end of the year, and then potentially get into the Gun Rights Policy Conference and some of those museums along the way. So again, I don't expect everybody out there to be able to buy a deck, but if you can help share the project with other people out there, that's really the goal, is with crowdfunding, is to get a lot of people interested. Really, if I could get a bunch of people interested enough to just throw a buck in there, keeping in mind that 10% of that or something is going to go to the fees and stuff, but enough of those 90 cents come in, and projects keep going. So we're going to continue to experiment with the crowdfunding for projects like this one that really shouldn't exist. If you did business the right way, you'd go find out a product that people are looking for, and then you would figure out a way to make that product at a profit, and then you'd supply it to them efficiently. I'm not doing that. I want to see a 2A deck of cards happen, and I figured out a way to get the drawings made myself, so I didn't have to pay somebody to do it, and that actually made it feasible. The Patreons are allowing me the time to do it, and hopefully doing it as a kind of a, I don't know what to call it, multimedia project, doing the art with people in a live thing, recording that session and speeding it up for people that just want to see the art get created, and then the final result being something that you can hold in your hand and use as a flashcard for kids, or use for your own absorption of this type of information if it's interesting to you. Hopefully that's something that enough people think is worth being created, that this will exist. And like say, if it's something that can be shared enough and enough people think it's worth 20 bucks or whatever it is to grab one, then maybe it'll fund some travels again towards the end of the year to the castle and the Gun Rights Policy Conference. We'll see what happens. So far, it's a day into it. We've sold 2 decks, so you never know. Sometimes these things kick off in the beginning. Sometimes they kick off right at the last couple of days. This is our 23rd campaign, so I don't know what to expect. We'll all enjoy the adventure, hopefully. Can we end this ever? I'm
just fixing to say good day to everybody, because every time I say something, I get booted.
Right on. I don't know if Dead Horse is even here anymore. He might have stepped away to do his thing. So I guess we're letting it go.
Yeah, we went longer than we usually do anyway.
Okay. So I made up a little bit for yesterday. Dog ate the podcast yesterday. We'll be back on.
Oh yeah, blame the dog.
Oh yeah, she does everything, man. She stinks up the place. She's eating all the cheese.
You think maybe the second there is responsible for the first?
I was told feed her as much cheese as she can eat. Now she's stinky.
Okay, I've not ever heard that one, but
I'm tired, man. I want to go to sleep. So thanks everybody for watching and listening. Or is that Bob's thing? I don't know. End this thing already, Tony.
Let's just put it in terms that I would normally say. Everybody get the fuck out of here. We're done.
Making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes.